Hey, welcome to episode 178 of the Collector's Quest podcast. In this episode, we're interviewing Edward Payson, a Sega collector, but also the director of the upcoming film Rarity, video game collecting in the modern era? Rarity, retro video game collecting in the modern era. I just missed one word. The movie premieres tomorrow, October 5th, at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood. Apparently, people who live there know what that is. I don't know what that is. Yes, Edward, you got a podcast spot, and we're putting this up literally one day before the premiere. Welcome to our editing schedule. Tell your mom about the show, though. Give us 5 stars on iTunes, and let's go.
Yeah, like clips onto the back of my phone with the magnet. I always have a wallet case I have for like the last 8 years because I hate having a wallet. But this one, I have to pull it off to get the cards out.
I've just got one of those like elastic bands that goes over all my cards.
Oh my God, you are so gross.
It's as thin as you can get. It's great.
No, it isn't.
No, it's thinner than also having a phone, not carrying a phone.
Do you have to carry a wallet then?
Yes.
Tyler, you are a maniac. Carry a fucking phone so we can text you. Like, why do you put me in this place where I've got to talk to you on Facebook, something I hate?
You know, Tyler, they have those phones for like, you know, where the numbers are extra big, if that's what you feel like you need.
No, I just don't have a phone. My pockets are free. All I have is a wallet, and it's the thinnest possible wallet, and I keep no BS in it. I keep like 2 bills and like a couple cards. And that's it. I don't have anything weighing me down like a phone.
How does
1980 called and wants its currency
How does Ada
back.
tolerate that?
Ada's great. Ada has like a purse on her, so she's got like mints, she's got ibuprofen and all that stuff and a phone, obviously. So if we're ever stranded somewhere, her purse is going to be the thing that gets us out of the situation.
What if you're not together? That's my... Oh, God.
I mean, if we're not together, you can't reach me. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, my God. That seems safe for your family.
I mean, a lot of people...
Look, Tyler's family doesn't love him, so don't get it twisted.
Even
like,
the dog
I saw a picture. No, did you see his mom posted a picture on Facebook, and she was like out with the family, and Tyler wasn't in that picture.
Wow.
Just saying. They looked like they were on top of a building somewhere in New York, enjoying each other's company. Where was Tyler?
I think I'm Tyler's mom's favorite son. Like, really.
Johnny, I understand not wanting to use Facebook for messaging people. I'm there with you. I'm totally down with ditching Facebook, but my refusal to use a phone over forever has meant I've built up such a network of people I only communicate with on Facebook, and it'll be hard to just switch away from Messenger at this point.
No, it wouldn't, because they all have cell phones in their fucking pockets.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler, here with Johnny, Stefan, and Edward Payton. Nope, it's not. It's Edward
God
Payson.
Damn you. God,
Jesus,
that was gonna be the perfect lead-in.
No!
The perfect lead-in.
I'm Tyler, here with Johnny, Stefan, and Edward Payson. As you might know from the IMDb list of men with 6 letters in their first name and surname.
I didn't know that's a thing. I didn't even know that I had 6 and 6, so perfect.
Yeah, and it was, I'm also on your IMDb page. It was just your birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right, so Tyler, we're on the Collector's Quest podcast. You didn't even say that, so that's cool. And this is the fastest we're ever going to get into
intro. Obviously, it's going to be way better, Johnny.
Okay. I mean, no, Tyler, we never do, like, we always get our intros right the first time.
Guys, I am so happy to be back. Can I say?
Yeah, we've missed you, Stefan. So
Thank you.
we've got more than a full crew here today. Did Tyler give like a proper introduction? I was so horrified by everything he was doing.
I was hoping you would latch on to the fact I brought up IMDb to introduce our filmmaker guest, Edward here. Johnny, just go ahead. I'm going to try to shut up this episode because we have too many people to be interviewing one person.
Okay. I'm not going to take the bait on that joke. All right. Anyways, we are here with Edward. Hey, Edward. Hi. Thank you for joining us and the chaos that is always the start of this show.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
So, for people who don't know, Edward has just recently directed, canned his whole film called Rarity. If you are on Instagram and of the people who follow many of the people we follow, you've probably seen some trailers for it. But Edward, this is not your first rodeo. You aren't just some rando who decided to make a movie about video games or video game collectors. You have a whole history. So if you could maybe just, without having to send our people to IMDb, could you just give us a rundown of who you are, how you started, that the fact that this is your real job, and that you're a filmmaker out there for real, but also a collector?
Definitely, yeah. So I moved to California in 2007, and I started making horror films and commercials professionally. And from there, I kind of I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, realized that there was something missing, and I didn't know what that was until I joined Instagram. I resisted joining Instagram for so long, being the old man that I am and wanting to stay on Facebook. And once I went there and saw all the amazing stuff from my childhood that other people had, I was like, well, I want that stuff too. So I just started off with no rhyme or reason and started collecting things from my childhood. But then I kind of specifically focused on Sega Genesis and decided I wanted to have the whole Sega Genesis collection. And of course that morphs over time, because as many of you who have a lot of collections, you probably get bored collecting the same thing there and then in and then on again. So I also collect Ninja Turtles, I collect Power Rangers, He-Man, but overall I would say I'm a Sega Genesis collector, and I'm going for the full set. So fast forward to 2018, and I made my first video game related movie called Bits, which is about a haunted Sega Genesis game that kills you if you don't beat the first level in the game. It basically makes you kill everyone you've had contact with in the last 24 hours. So you get possessed by the game and then kill everybody. And then with all the things that have been happening in the retro game world, some good, some people would say that they're bad, I just saw something that was interesting that I think needed a window into, because there's so much misinformation. There's so many people throwing around all kinds of information that's just 100% false or purposely made to be false, just to be something that is clickbaitable. So we made Rarity.
And what is Rarity? Tell us. We know it's like a video game documentary, but give us a rundown.
Sure. So Rarity, the full title, Rarity, Retro Video Game Collecting in the Modern Era. We basically started off as a small documentary. First person we actually interviewed, you might know him. He goes by Stefan Reese. And and we were going to have a really small documentary at first, just with people in the Southern California area, because it was in the middle of COVID-19, something you guys
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Just actually, kidding. I'll explain that later to people.
Yeah, so the first day we were supposed to shoot with Johnny, but he was vetoed by his wife because of having a small child, and we weren't able to shoot that day, but we did shoot with Stefan the same day.
Stefan, who famously has a small child.
No. Let's not make Stefan look that bad. So my wife had just had a really rough run. My wife is an RN at a hospital in the area where the COVID numbers in our area were worse than they were in LA County. And she had just had a mother delivered who the father had just died of COVID that night before the baby died.
Oh, I didn't even know any of that.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. I told you, it was, I canceled on Edward, literally at the last possible minute. I felt like such a shitheel doing it, but my wife was just everything was too much at that time. And I was like, I'm not gonna hoist this on my wife and make her feel at risk at all, especially after she just watched that happen. Like I said, she's a nurse in an area, especially at that time when a lot of people were dying. And I don't care how you feel about the COVID in general. That's just the reality of what was going on in the hospital. So this isn't some weird political stance. She just, it's a hard job sometimes to watch people die or to watch a baby be stillborn. So she was having a rough time, and she just said, I don't want to do this right now. And I respect my wife's wishes because we're a team.
Well, not only that, right? But you have risk factors too, right? So I mean that's
got
to be incredibly difficult for her. Like obviously difficult for you, but also difficult for her having gone through that. Also having a spouse that is high risk, right?
Right. Yeah. No, it was just a scary moment and inopportune. And Edward, I told you how bad I felt and really did.
I totally was not throwing any kind of shade or anything like that. I just was just trying to give him the backup behind it. So the people that we had that we were going to interview for the documentary, it was Johnny, it was Stefan, it was Riff from the Pixel Game Squad, and it was Super Retro Girl. And those were the only people at first that we were going to interview. And kind of what happened is after we interviewed each person and they made it known to other people that we interviewed them, we ended up getting a whole bunch of solicitation as far as people who wanted to be in the documentary. And that is, sometimes just friends that were nearby that heard about it. But then also we got, message from people that were across the country and sometimes across the world to be in the documentary. So it kind of snowballed into this giant thing where it was a 20-person cast, and we're traveling all over the country and interviewing people from all over the world and looking at rare video games, a lot of times one-of-a-kind items, looking at giant collections, looking at high-ticket items, all that kind of stuff, and hopefully keeping it entertaining in the meantime, not just people being like, here's my collection.
So let me ask you, what is the focus? So is the focus on the people, or is the focus on the things they collect? Is it a collaboration of that? How did as the director, what were you aiming for?
So for this documentary, we did something a little different than I typically do. Typically, I know exactly kind of the angle I'm going to take. With this, we asked way more questions than what were needed. Purposely just to let the documentary kind of form itself. The way I can describe it is as opposed to shooting like a regular movie, a documentary differs because if you look at it as if you're like a statue builder, typically if you were to build a statue, you would start with, the bottom, and then you'd work your way to the top, to the knees or whatever, to the torso, till you eventually got to the head. That would be for a regular movie. For a documentary, it's kind of here's a thing of clay, now whittle it away until there's something that resembles, a person on the inside or something like that. So very much so, we just shot as much as we could, and the documentary formed itself when I went to the editing process with the 28 plus terabytes worth of footage, and kind of took people's responses to questions and molded them together and looked at the different things that people had to say and the different ways that people collected. So to answer your question, we didn't take a person first or a game first or a collection first attitude. We kind of set it up in chapters, and sometimes it's about the whole collection. Sometimes it's about one specific game and a bunch of people talking about it. Sometimes it's about a console. Sometimes it's about a story. So there's a whole bunch of different chapters that kind of keep you guessing as to what's going to happen next.
When you, just out of curiosity, when you finished the cut and stepped back and looked at it, were you surprised at all as to what you ended up with, or was your vision kind of were there any surprises for you at the end, going oh, this is not the film I set out to make, or this went in a different direction than I was guessing it would?
Well, I've had the luck because this is my third documentary, and I've had the luck with each documentary where pretty much anything we needed to happen or wished happened ends up just happening. It's just maybe I'm a lucky person, but basically all three of my documentaries, we were just at the end point being where is this going to end? What can happen? And then within a week, the thing that needed to happen happened. So looking at this, it's kind of funny because I called it like the Payson cut in reference to like the Snyder cut because it was so long. I was sitting with a 2-hour and 13-minute documentary, and I was like, I don't want to cut anything. Now it's been cut down to 1 hour and 40 minutes, and that's with credits. So there was some things that are in there that I wanted to keep in there, but just didn't kind of go with the rest of the movie. So unfortunately, we had to cut them out. Some people's collections, everything they showed us was incredible, and we couldn't make 30 minutes of the documentary just devoted to them. So it just makes us want to do a part 2 even more so, especially if it's well received.
Cool. Would you do like a part 2 with the footage that you have, or would you are you looking to will you get that kind of the cutting room floor footage like out to the people somehow?
Yeah, that's kind of what the plan was. The plan was if we don't use it in this one and it's interesting, find a way to fit it into the second one. And the second one wouldn't be just the same interviews cut up. It would be the same interviews plus more interviews with different people. Like we've already talked to people like Retro Rick and a few other people. And I think we're going to actually travel out to pretty much all the people that we interview if we can. It's going to be a lot more expensive this time around. I didn't mention that during the introduction to the film, but COVID made things very, very easy to travel. We were getting like round trip tickets to Florida and to Chicago and to New Hampshire and all these places for like $70.
Wow.
So yeah. So it made it very easy to travel. And I should say too, the crew of this is just myself and 3 other people. So it was just 2 of us shooting the movie, and then my wife actually put a lot of money into it, as well as me as a producer. And then we just have the person doing graphics, and then my director of photography. That's it. So the 4 of us in total made this movie.
And how long would you say you spent working on the movie? Like, how long did this take you?
Well, the first interview we shot, I want to say August of 2020, so a little bit over a year at this point.
Nice. And so, I mean, you don't need to tell us the exact money. I don't know if on films people don't care about talking up money, because in every other thing I always see how expensive it was. Was it very expensive to do? I know you got some stuff on the cheap, but overall, is this an expensive process to make a documentary as someone who has no idea?
Yeah, I would say a documentary, depending on the subject matter, the documentary is cheaper to make than a film, a general film like a narrative or something like that, because pretty much everybody that you're shooting already has like a location. You're not creating locations. You're not, needing giant camera crews or anything like that to make, weather or to make things happen. I want to say, for this, I probably spent out of pocket at least like 10 to 15,000.
Okay. And how does that compare to, like, you've made some horror films, like not huge budget ones, but like, what is the cost difference there? Like when you make a narrative film?
So my last movie, Bits, before this movie was $1 million.
Okay.
That's a pretty big cost difference, it seems like.
Yeah.
All right.
It's great because Stefan has he spends all this time getting just the right shelves and lighting and everything for his game room, and that's all free. He already did that all for you. It sounds wonderful. Just keep making documentaries.
And the cool thing about that was actually we started the documentary at Stefan's house, and then we ended the documentary at Stefan's house. And his collection had changed so much by then, it was almost like we were shooting 2 different collections. We just needed some extra footage of some certain paintings and stuff that he had, but then we were able to pretty much get like a whole new collection. So that was pretty cool.
I had just started like really going down the rabbit hole with Art of Nintendo Power when Edward was there the first time. And so that and like, the whole game room renovation that I had done where I like sold 6,000 games and like the content of the room had shifted so much. And then of course all the art that I didn't have previously. So yeah, it was definitely, you've definitely got essentially 2 game rooms for one.
So yeah, I was looking for a spot to put in a joke of why did you interview Stefan? He doesn't collect video games, but obviously you interviewed him back when he still cared about video games. But you have been to a lot of these people's houses. You've probably seen a lot of different collectors from crazy people like Stefan who won't touch anything unless it's one of a kind, to the super collectors out there buying everything like Johnny, specialists like Dennis Kahn, just going everything Nintendo. And then you've got like the Pixel Game Squad guys who are mostly going out deal hunting, just trying to get good deals on stuff they want. Who is having the most fun out of any of us? Follow-up question is, are any of us content with what we have?
I don't think anybody's content with what they have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's content with what they have. If I had to pick someone in the documentary that's content with what they have, it was probably John Riggs. He didn't really care about the quantity or quality. He just wanted to have fun making his videos. He didn't care how many people watched them. He just wanted to make them for himself. I think he got rid of most of his collection and has no plans to get more of a collection, but is knowledgeable about video games, obviously. And yeah, we interviewed some really strange collectors, some cool collectors. So we have a guy in Holland who only collects consoles, doesn't even collect games, just collects consoles. And he has like the Queen's Golden Wii that was made for the Queen of England in 2009.
We're familiar with the Golden Wii here.
Yeah. So he's got that. He's got like 6 or 7 other one-of-a-kind consoles, and then a bunch that are under 100 made, under 50 made, under 20 made, under 5 made. So, but yeah, only consoles. Doesn't play the games. Just I think he said he only has like 30 games in total.
Wild.
But so who is having the most fun though? Which way is the correct way to collect? I mean, that guy sounds great. It also sounds really hard to collect consoles because there's so many like 1-offs and 5-offs and it's ridiculous. But who's having the most fun? Should I give up on trying to collect everything?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of the overall theme of the documentary, is that there's no right or wrong way to collect. Even though everybody thinks there's a right or wrong way to collect. And people are in it for different reasons. I think some people, especially the people that have like, some people are definitely in it for money, but also, some people are so busy that it's enough just to be able to look at the game on the shelf as opposed to, playing it and things like that. Like some people just don't have the time, honestly don't have the time to play the games.
I don't know any about that. That sounds weird.
We play all our games here on the Collector's Quest podcast.
Always
so I don't know
playing
what that's
games.
about.
We have one review that says these guys are always working. Has criticism against us.
Yeah. But yeah. It was definitely like mind blowing to see some of these collections. The most fun, I mean, the person who was smiling the longest time when we were there was definitely Dennis Kahn. We saw his collection in Chicago, and he was smiling, making jokes the whole time. So that was fun.
Careful, he's an evil overlord now.
That's right. Head of the Illuminati.
Yeah, I think he has a sense of humor about that too, which is. I feel like if the people actually like, I guess I don't need to get into it, but I was just gonna say, like, if people knew like how much of a grain of salt he was taking all of that with, they would probably respect him for it.
Yeah, we're not here to pump up Dennis or go down that road, but like because I know Dennis, and like when I tell people that Dennis loves this stuff, has since he was a child. Like there's not very many people who are in as like a preteen starting to collect games and like trying to hang out with adults on forums. Like he wasn't doing that because he was like, aha, one day I'm going to make so much money. Ha, rubbing his hands together. The dude loves it. So whatever some real criticisms you may have, never doubt that he loves it forever and ever.
We definitely have footage of him as a child in the documentary as well, collecting games, which is kind of cool.
Because that was like 5 years ago. That's why you think.
Yeah. He's only like 26 or something like that. So maybe a little older now, but.
So who, I mean, Dennis has a pretty sweet collection, but who was the best like collection from your point of view? Like what was the best collection you saw? Because you're a Genesis guy, so maybe you don't love Dennis's like rows of the same Game Boy games and Nintendo games. Like what did you saw where you were like, damn, that's the best?
So there's someone in the documentary from Sweden. Her name is Heidi. Stop
Heidi
Whispering.
Is great. Yeah, Heidi's great.
Room.
So good.
her incredible, and she kind of blindsided me because for the documentary I kind of said like grab some rare games that you have that you don't you want to talk about, and the only thing she wanted to talk about was porno games.
Oh, awesome! Nice. No, Heidi is great. Like she's one of the few people who have been interviewed on this show, and then after the interview with her, we sat around and we talked for like 3 more hours. Heidi is. She's fun. She just had a baby and stuff not so long. I guess her baby's older now, but that was like happening during the podcast. And her collection is amazing. If you guys have not gone out and see, I can't wait for people to see that in your video because there's very few rooms that are set up in such a way. Like mine's set up like a library. Stefan's is set up like you're walking into a Blockbuster, but hers is set up in such a way that just says, "Hey, you're here to sit down and play these games," which is
exactly
like really wild that she created that aesthetic.
Sorry, just to clarify from context clues, Heidi is retro gaming on Instagram?
No. Stop X Whispering.
Stop X Whispering.
No. On Instagram, she's retro gaming, but she goes by Stop X Whispering and everything else. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Retro_gaming.
She's the queen of having the most generic retro gaming Instagram handle of any of you guys.
She's been around. Yeah.
Well, she must have been, right? Like that's one of those names where you're like, how long have you been doing this?
Right.
That you got that got that handle.
Yeah, and that's kind of what she said. She's like, I started collecting these erotic games because I have everything else.
That's
so.
Hilarious. Did she talk about Tetris at all to you?
Tetris, no. She talked about Bubble Bath Babes, which she believes is a better version of Tetris.
Oh, awesome.
Heidi, you're going to have to come on the show and defend that position again.
Well, you can see her defended on the documentary, in the documentary. But so it was amazing because she was pointed out to us by J-Bam, who you guys know, Jason Bamondi. And weirdly enough, like I knew Jason was the reason I actually met Stefan. Because actually Jason introduced me to you first, Johnny, for bits. We had talked about possibly using
I forgot.
That's right. It was supposed to be your room, and then you had to bail for whatever reason, and then I ended up picking it up.
Oh, cool! I've bailed on you twice. That's man, my track record is fucking awesome. Jesus Christ, what an asshole I am. I am
Johnny,
sorry.
you're not going to be in the
more
third
importantly,
movie, just
I picked
clear.
up your slack twice. That's the important takeaway.
I mean, that's always what you've done, Stefan. You've always been there to hold my slack.
That's right.
Yeah. And insider gamers will know because when you watch the documentary, you think that you only see Stefan's game room twice, but you actually see it 3 times because at the beginning of Bits, the beginning of the movie, there's footage from my film Bits where you actually see Stefan's game room, but somebody else is acting as if it's their game room for my movie.
Oh,
which also in those shots, it would be like basically a third presentation of the room because it also looks nothing like it did back then. Because that when you were shooting for Bits, like I had crammed. There was very little editing on my part as to what went into the game room at that time, so it was just packed.
That's when you were a garbage man.
Yes, that's when I would literally buy anything. And then, so when you came back, Edward, it was definitely a more curated collection. And then the third time you came, it was even more curated. So that room looks drastically different every time you've been in it.
Yeah. The only people that will know, it'll be an Easter egg for people that listen to this podcast, and then Stefan will know that it's his collection as well. But 3 times you see Stefan's collection, and 3 times it's a different collection in the film.
Nice. Okay, so aside from Heidi, what were some other ones that you saw that were? I mean, you saw a bunch of great collections, but and you talked about the console collector. Give us one more that was like that kind of stopped you, and you're like, wow, this is not what I expected.
So, well, this is a little different, but basically, the YouTubers all had their own footage that we were able to use in the documentary, but we interviewed a lot of people that weren't YouTubers, obviously. So we couldn't just have the whole documentary be talking heads. So we had to do some reenactments And my favorite reenactment to do is Jason, who I just mentioned. I know we went off a little bit of a tangent about the movie, but Jason told us a story about this really sketchy deal, and then we had to reenact that sketchy deal. And the sketchy deal is about this girl who met him at like an art event and saw that he had video games, specifically Mario video games, tattooed all over his leg, and asked if he was a collector, and was like, "Oh, we have all this stuff that we're selling for a good price at my place. Like, I'd love to show you it or whatever." And at that point, I guess he was out with his father, and they were 5 hours away from New Jersey, where he lives, wherever his father lives, and then had to drive with this person because he didn't have his own car. Left his dad at the event and went to this this lady's, seemingly house. But he showed up, he found himself in the middle of the woods in a trailer park. And as he entered the location, it was very clear that this lady had a husband and he was there and they all wanted to have sex with him. But
excellent.
But he looked on the ground.
How is this the first time we're hearing the story?
Well, it'll be in the documentary with a very funny person doing a cameo as the sex crazed boyfriend. He also talked about how there's lots of drugs all over the place when he gets there. But then as he looks on the ground, there's like old tools and like work boots and stuff. And then there's just huge stacks of Nintendo games in every corner of this trailer on the ground, and all the refuse and stuff next to like tools and all this crap on the ground. So he talks about how he got roughly $20,000 to $30,000 worth of Nintendo games for $2,000 and got out of there without being penetrated or having to penetrate.
I don't.
As the story goes.
I know Jason. I don't know if I believe that. I want to hear. I want to get a few drinks in him and see if that's the same story.
I got this great deal and they didn't have sex with me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Doesn't sound like you got a great deal. Those are the situations you got to put yourself in to find a stadium events these days, because you're not going to get one off eBay. So you got to really put yourself out there, as your mom would say.
I mean, is that a worse deal? Like, if sex is part of the offer, does that make it a worse offer? Tyler, go ahead, answer, you weirdo.
No, Johnny, I'm in.
Okay,
I'm in for the trailer park threesome.
Okay,
Johnny. Anytime someone mentions like a shady game deal, I always think about the time you and I almost got shot in Lancaster.
Oh, yeah, that's a story for another time. Anyway, so that's you guys. You did a reenactment of that.
Yeah, so we had a lot of stories like that where we had to do reenactments. We had one story, I don't want to give the whole movie away, but we had like weird stories about like just games showing up where they weren't supposed to and nobody knowing where they came from. Everything from like weird and funny stories to scary stories to just like what the heck is going on stories, to amazing deals that people got. So we have a segment, where it's just about like stories and we had to get all this footage that the YouTubers couldn't give us because they weren't YouTubers. We had to show something. So we did all these reenactments and that kind of thing. So,
Funny.
So at any point, since you talked to all the big YouTubers and stuff who are clearly part of the Illuminati, what animals did you sacrifice and what other ritualistic behaviors did you have to engage in? I'm just kidding.
None yet, but I'm willing to. If I can be, inducted into the Illuminati. You tell me what animal I have to sacrifice. I mean, I have five cats.
I can't confirm which animal you would need to sacrifice.
Tyler's dog.
Whoa! Do not sacrifice my dog. It would bring more love to my household if you did, though. If you want to increase the movie's budget by $1 million, you could just buy one video game, and I think you get a ticket to the Illuminati if you spend $1 million in a video game.
I think that's true. Or
I'd say once you spend like 5 figures on a game, you're inducted into the Illuminati. I think the entry bar is not quite that high.
I mean, you can do it easier than that. You can buy like a 3-figure game, get it graded, and then sell it for 5 figures, and then you'll be in as well. I mean, there's a pathway. Edward, if you really want to get in there, there's some inroads. Tyler will tell you how because he's friends with them.
Step 1, download Clubhouse.
I know, Johnny. I know people
I've
who have
used it
sold
once,
five-figure
but...
games who are not in the Illuminati. Believe it or not. So
did you
just being a
confirm the
seller,
Illuminati?
like if you're an old-time collector who has just sold like stuff that has gone up ridiculous, you don't get a ticket to the Illuminati, and they've complained about it too.
Are they ageist?
We don't know. Look, we're way off topic on the Illuminati. Okay, let's bring it back to Edward. Okay, sorry, Edward. Tower, Stefan, any piercing questions you got? Any
I have a question.
The piercingest question.
Get out of here.
As someone who has been to dozens of game collections, Edward, when you look at complete in box N64 games, which color should face out?
Oh, come on. We all know the answer is gold.
I don't know because I'm colorblind, actually.
Okay, I was going to give you shit, but if you have an actual
way to
reason,
make him feel
I
bad,
guess.
Tyler.
Wow, you found the one thing to make it awkward, Tyler. Congratulations while using your superpower.
You just randomly guessed someone's disability. Awesome.
But also,
all right.
the only N64 collector that we went to was Dennis, and he has so much room where his collection is that he doesn't have to have any games sideways. They're all flat out, facing out.
Oh my, what an asshole. That's just like bragging about how much room you have when you do that. The Last Gamer does that, and he has like tens of thousands of games.
Okay, but yeah, that dude has like an airplane hangar. But like, honestly, that's actually a legitimate question, having never been in Dennis's game room. How big is that room?
It's the size of probably like 3 normal people's houses.
Holy shit!
Oh.
Really?
There's 7 rooms. It's not 1 room. It's 7 rooms.
Oh wow!
To me, it just looks like a basement with like a dividing wall in it. I had no idea.
Yeah,
it
I
was
feel
that
like
big.
we only see the same shots over and over again.
Yeah. So we do a walkthrough, a little walkthrough in the documentary, but there's definitely parts in his collection room where you can get into full sprints without hitting a wall.
I think that's the power move for 2021 moving forward, is just having enough room to turn your games out sideways. Just like
Let's make
face
that a
front.
trend. It could be
Just
part of like a get rid of your chaff trend. Like if you can't turn the games forward, then you have too many games. So get rid of that.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
If I had to go by measurement, he probably has a master bedroom sized room that is just dedicated to like PlayStation games, both stand-ups as well as like arcades and stuff like that. He probably has like 2 den-sized rooms, one for Xbox and another just for like controllers that are in box up to the ceiling. He has a living room sized room just with Game Boy and N64. Another living room sized room with GameCube and stand-ups there and N64. He has this long hallway that has every single Nintendo game, mostly all boxed, and a lot of them. Oh, I should say like many. I would say like 80% of the games are sealed.
Wow.
Johnny, we got to get out of California, man.
I know.
This is the worst.
I mean, says you at least had a master bedroom sized room. I'm like trying to do it in a closet in my office.
and
I have like,
that's
and
kind of
compared to other people, yeah, like, and that's me saying that is kind of like shitty because I have like a pretty good amount of space. Like other people have it much worse. Like think about trying to do this in New York.
Yeah.
I thought Dennis was more of a Nintendo specialist. It sounds like he is a super collector, as you might say, who
he just doesn't show
fucking
it off.
everything. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's always showing off the stuff he thinks is coolest is probably Nintendo stuff.
He made a point to tell me he has no Sega stuff except for that one Sonic stand-up that he has.
Oh, Dennis is an asshole. Forget Dennis then. All right. So
how bad did that hurt your feelings though? Because I know how much you love Sega. Like, how personally offended were you? Did you punch him or?
Honestly, I had a different thought. I was just like, well, if he doesn't like Sega, he's going to get rid of this stand at some point, and I want to be the person to get it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Being Kill him with kindness, Edward.
Yeah.
Kill him with kindness.
I like that. Good take.
I would have walked in there and been like, wow, Dennis, with your collection and my collection combined, we would have a great collection. So You've been to all. I didn't realize Dennis had such variety and still hates Sega. But you've been to all these super collector houses, guys who collect everything. Like you might say Johnny Iucci, who just has too many video games, complete in box sets of everything, doesn't put limits on anything. But I'll bring someone up in the documentary, John Hancock. And there's guys on Instagram like Mesmeron, Milwaukee Retro Gamer, VG Collectaholic. I'm sure you've seen a lot of them. There's a criticism of people like this that basically all their collections are the same, because when you have everything, what is there to differentiate you? But as someone who has been to a lot of these people's collections, what does differentiate them, if anything? Are we all just stupid for collecting like this?
It's a good question.
No. I mean, there's a lot of different varieties. So when we went to Dennis's house, we couldn't get the whole thing because we weren't anticipating. Like you said, like I had seen videos beforehand and pictures of his collection. I had no idea how much stuff was there. So we were like literally racing to the airport. We were supposed to call an Uber, but Dennis was nice enough to actually let us be there a little bit longer so we didn't have to wait for the Uber and he could just drive us to the airport. But we still weren't able to get all the stuff we wanted to get, and we were there for like an 8-hour day. So his, most people I would say have a collection like that who we interviewed. They have like a sprawling collection. The one collection that was really strange was, and I know this guy gets a lot of criticism. I don't know why. I think it's mostly jealousy, but Eric from VVG Club. So
we can tell you why.
Yeah, I know the whole controversy and all that kind of stuff. But he's a huge collector of many things and has been for like 25, 30 years. A lot of the baseball cards and stuff that he's had since he was a kid. But like at one point in the documentary, he's scrolling through baseball cards, and it's only 6 baseball cards, but it's worth like $8 million.
You couldn't show me $8 million that I would be less interested than just showing me baseball cards. Wow. I know most baseball and video games don't really cross that often. Sports card collectors are maniacs. The dollars they put on things are just insane. So that's not.
But these are actual like
of him.
Yeah, I think like even me not being a huge baseball guy, just with the top card being Babe Ruth and then the one under it being Ty Cobb, and people like that, like it's crazy. He has like TMZ articles about him and stuff about everything from video games to sports cards. But seeing his collection, so something we didn't know before the documentary is so in Florida and most places actually, because one of the things the documentary we talk about is how video games are just being considered art, really, in the U.S. And what I mean by that is, like, for the longest time, video games weren't seen, as, like, art that's, like, on par with, like, a painting or something like that, where a painting every week goes for, like, millions of dollars and no one bats an eye. Whereas, like, video games is actually, like, the lowest low end of all collectibles as far as like our high sales. So they're finally being considered art. And the way that you can see that is in like just American culture is when it comes to Eric's video game collection, the banks wouldn't insure his video games for the same as they would for like the sports cards or the paintings or anything like that. They actually had $100,000 cap because there's not enough people to tell you that a video game is worth this amount of money and that a painting is or whatever. So we had to give him 2 weeks notice before we got out there just so he could go around to like 25 different bank vaults throughout the southern Florida area and get 2 games out here, 5 games out here, 4 games out here. And then we had to get an undisclosed location and go see all the games for the first time have ever been in this one place and do the interview there at this undisclosed location, which ended up being like a glass room inside of a call center, because that was where he could rent, and it was very like nondescript, and like we got the address in the morning of and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was very, very interesting just to show up. And the way it was set up too, it was set up in like the room itself had 20-foot shelves, and there were video games all the way up to the top of the 20-foot shelf. So probably not the best setup in hindsight, especially because we had our travel filmography gear. We didn't even have like our typical like gear that we could bring. We had like the bare bones basic stuff that we could take on the flight and stuff. So we really were only able to see the first 2 shelves of this 20-foot shelf, except for in like a wide shot from the ground facing up. So it was like we walked in there and then he told us how much it's worth, which has like tripled or quadrupled since we shot his scene, by the way. It was just like the first time I was like, oh my God, like I'm around so much money right now.
Did a lot of other people, when you walked into their collection, they're like, this is my collection, it's worth $300,000? Is that... I'm sorry. Bad question.
Yeah, well, I just know mine. I've been collecting for like 6 years. It's just Genesis stuff. And according to the app that I use, mine's worth like $24,000. So to see one game, that's valued at like, at the time was valued at like $250,000. Now is valued at like $2 million. It's like, I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, so it has to be pretty jarring, right? Like, your expectation is that you're going to be like spelunking around in people's basements and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're in some weird call center with giant glass shelves that are 20 feet high, full of like the world's most expensive games.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like the work day wasn't even stopped. They were still making calls outside the glass, and we actually had to like get them to like settle down and like put some stuff up to try and block the sound out.
That's going to be the weirdest story about visiting a game collection I've ever heard, I think. That's weirder than the sex trailer park thing. Like that, the sex trailer park, totally expected. This is weird. Like, I'm like, yeah, sex trailer park, that makes sense. Like, I've been in some shady deals. Weird call room center and like driving around to get games out of like different, vaults. That's weird. That's weird to me.
That is weird.
Yeah, also had to.
I'm going to be judgmental.
Insurance companies. Yeah, for the day, I guess he had to get an insurance policy out as well, which is obviously what people do when they transport tons of stuff like that. But the most baller thing is, so the interview ends and he puts this giant chain around the doors. I don't know if we have footage of the chain in the documentary, but I was like, if someone's gonna break in, they're gonna break that door. It's a glass door, but there's a huge chain on it. But the coolest thing was like he like literally left us there, like we were just having some snacks and stuff, getting ready for our Uber to come, and he's like, "Okay, guys, see you later." So yeah, not scared in the slightest. It was just like, here, Whereas me, like I'm scared to like let my cat into my game room in case it like claws a Sega Genesis game or something.
Yeah, you're like there, like, oh my God, I can't touch any of this stuff, and his mindset's like, oh, they're just video games. I mean, come on.
It's not like it's one of my baseball cards. Yeah,
have fun.
It's not any of the good stuff.
I'll tell you a story. There wasn't enough room on the shelves for all the stuff, so there was like probably 5 games in each corner of the room. So not many, but one of them I didn't see, and all of a sudden I hear crash. And I had knocked over one of the... I mean, mind you, it's in a WATA case, so it's not going to get like hurt or anything like that. But then later he tells me like the value of said game, because it was one of the ones he like put off to the side to talk about. And it was like one of like 2 Golfs in existence.
Okay, it was just
of that grade with that hang tab and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I was just like, oh my God, he didn't care at all though. Like that's the thing. Like I felt so bad.
Just so you know, basically what you knocked over to him was box wine. And he's like, Meh. That's crazy. Anyways, that's an insane story.
That is funny.
Sounds terrifying.
Yeah, like you're like, this thing is worth more than my whole budget by a whole lot. Our insurance won't cover this. Oh God. All right. Any other crazy stories that you want to tell us, or like weird things you had to do to get footage?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily weird. I mean, there were just some places in the documentary where I felt like we needed more footage, so we actually reached out to people and just got pictures of their collection, not necessarily, or like video of their collection without them actually being in the documentary. So there's a lot of shots from like the 1UP collection. There's stuff from Zach the Masked Gamer. There's stuff from Jeff Masser. So you will see collections that, don't have a name attached to them in the documentary, but, I guess insider people who've seen these collections will know, like if they've ever been to the high-end game room, they'll know whose collection is seen in some of the scenes and stuff.
Nice. Okay, Tyler, Stefan, any further questions?
I have a question. So it always seems to me that like there's a lot of like video game documentaries that almost were, right? Like, or it's honestly, it's kind of similar to like when people say like, oh yeah, I'm doing this all for a museum, and then that museum never comes to fruition. So like, I'm just kind of curious as to like, with you, it was like, you were like, hey, I'm thinking about, because like you and I have been friends for a while, and it was kind of like this, like, hey, so I'm thinking about doing this documentary, and then like a week later, hey, I'm shooting this documentary, and then like a week later, it's like, oh, it's in the can. Like you seem to like have like really taken the bull by the horns and kind of like got things done. So I was just kind of curious, like as a documentarian from that perspective, like why, like what are the like the big pitfalls that you think like make it so that these people who like try to start documentaries like never kind of get to the end? Like what were like the big hurdles? Yeah. Maybe the big hurdles for other people that
why are you successful?
You kind of have met. Yeah, why are you successful?
I don't make excuses. I mean, I think most people have every excuse or things that happen to them or anything they can use as an excuse to not do something, or maybe that, there's so many people I know who like use COVID as like, I'm just going to sit on my couch, which is what you were told to do. But we found a way to like work around and still be safe doing it. Like we had vaccinations really, really early. And like wore our masks, like some of these days where we were shooting and some of these days where we were going on the plane and stuff, we had masks on for like 20 plus hours because we would go from the plane, we'd get off the plane and get in like an Uber or a taxi or whatever it was to go to our hotel. We'd sleep. We'd immediately wake up, like sometimes with only like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, go shoot that day, immediately, go back into a taxi, then go into an airplane, and then go home because we were only there for like 1 day or whatever. I should also say that we shot a whole nother documentary at the same time about completely different subject matter about a lost Texas Chainsaw film, and that film is like 90% done and edited as well.
Wow.
And that's also a feature film. But I think, yeah, just to answer your question, like a lot of people will just find every excuse in the book not to work on something. Whereas, when this is my full-time job and also I see it as like kind of my legacy, and I know Adam, my co-producer, sees it kind of as his legacy. Like, we're not going to be able to do this for very much longer. I mean, not to be morbid or anything, but like 35 is not old, but like it's old to be traveling all over the country and stuff like that. Especially I have like a daughter on the way. It's the first child I'm going to have and stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to be able to just drop everything and go and shoot something. So I want to make sure while I do have time to do this kind of stuff that I'm getting stuff done. I'm getting meaningful stuff done, and I'm just not spreading myself thin, but keeping myself busy.
Right. So it sounds like you're saying while other people were finding excuses not to, you found every reason to do it, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Stefan or Tyler, any further questions? No? Okay.
I don't want to get too far off track, Johnny, so I don't need. But yeah.
Edward, what else? We definitely need to talk about the info of when it comes out and everything, and we'll also, Tyler, let's put that in the bumper. But what else do people need to know about this documentary? What else would you like to tell everyone about it? And our audience is collectors. They're just like you. They're one of us. Tell them anything else that we didn't get to, they need to know.
Sure. I mean, we can definitely talk about how we're going to have a huge premiere that the Retro Gaming World is invited to, happening on October 5th at the world famous TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood. 15 out of 20 of the cast are going to be there, including John Hancock, John Riggs, the whole Pixel Game Squad. Stefan will be there. Hopefully Johnny will be there. We got tons of people in there. We got all the filmmakers will be there. We'll have other collectors who aren't in the documentary that just wanted to come, and they're from different states and countries, etc. The Golden Wii is making its first American appearance since 2007, and that seems to be the only thing that like all the gaming magazines are interested in, and CNN's interested in everything, as the Golden Wii is coming to America. He's going to be bringing that. So I've been talking to the Holland consulate, as well as the American consulate, as well as customs, to figure out how to get it here without it being destroyed by customs or stolen by customs, because that happens, or for them not to think that it's a bomb or something like that. So yeah, I mean, there's a huge thing that's happening. It's gonna be streaming later on in October. As well as we're going to have a very cool box video game-esque release via Blu-ray documentary on, Blu-ray and DVD happening in mid-November. So it's going to have a nice like Nintendo-esque box, and it's going to have a fold-out poster and that kind of thing. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, we hope to have you guys all there, wherever your opinions are or whatever about retro gaming or people in the documentary. The documentary is not about any given one person or given one subject. It really is just a love letter to the retro video game community. And we made it for you because we are you. So hopefully you guys come and support.
Awesome.
Where do I stream it as someone who is not going to be at the premiere because I live in North Carolina?
So mid October, it should be on the Plex network, as well as Tubi, as well as Amazon Prime, and depending on what country you are, there's going to be different platforms and stuff for any given country. So anybody who wants to watch it will be able to watch it. We'll be able to watch it without having to pay any extra money besides having like a Fire Stick or a Roku or something like that. So that's the other thing, is we want to make it accessible.
Well, I mean, that's awesome that you want to make it accessible, but is there anywhere where it's going to be like a paid download for people who want to support you, or how do they support you?
I mean, they can support us by getting the physical media, since it's a documentary about physical media, but everywhere else, as far as the typically, I mean, like some of those sites, like you'd be able to watch it and there'd be ads. So, in hindsight, we're supposed to get paid by those ads. How much, I have no idea. It depends on the network and stuff. But like, I know Plex, there's like a free version which has ads, or a paid version where there's no ads. And that's kind of the way it is with some of the other like smaller apps and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll get money that way. We're not worried about it. As long as people are seeing it and liking it and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the best thing they can do is first, enjoy it, but then also when your physical release comes out, to pick that up.
Exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell us about it? Any other important dates? I mean, the premiere is October 5th, at the TLC Chinese Theater. I struggle not to call it the Man's Chinese Theater. Anything else our people need to know?
I think that's everything.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about the documentary. I've known you for a little bit. I've contributed a few games to the Genesis collection. We've done some trades at some conventions and stuff.
Definitely. I will say that one time I got so upset because I was going to ask you for a, you had, I think it was Mega Turrican, you had a copy. I think it was just the Mega Turrican case and the game. And I was just about to offer a trade. I think I had like a Beggar Prince that you didn't have or something. I was just about to offer a trade, and some guy walks over and he's like, $50 for that? And yeah, you sold it to him. I didn't want to be a jerk or anything, so I didn't say anything. But yeah, that game's like $250 now.
Yeah, you should have hit me on the down low on that. Yeah, I don't. Everything extra for me when I'm at those conventions is just like going back to the games and like trying to give people good deals. But the point why I even bring that up is for our fans to know, like you said, you're a collector, but like really you are a collector. I've run into you at Game Dude, which is like a big video game store out here. I see you at all the conventions. You're at Game Realms a lot. Like you're out on the hunt. You're picking up video games. You're on Instagram. Tell people your Instagram handle just so we get it out there real quick.
Sure. It's an anti-hero production with underscores between each word.
Also, Johnny, I'm pretty sure he's like 10 times more followers than any of us do. So he's the most famous person on this show.
Sure, but but that doesn't mean he's famous to video game collectors. I want to because if you look at his handle, you're like, oh, what is that? It doesn't scream video games or anything. But you post in your pickup of toys, games. I'm just trying to make the point that he's a collector, that he's a genuine collector, not just some guy who made a documentary. He doesn't give a shit. Is like just saw an opportunity to go out here and like film some stuff. Like he's a real collector. He's down in the trenches with us. He's doing the same things we do. And
he is not, because he's collecting Sega Genesis games, Johnny, instead of NES, which we all know is what he should be collecting.
Don't you have a full set of Genesis games? Hasn't everybody on this cast had a full set of Genesis games?
Tyler, if you're only collecting NES, you can give me that. What is it, Outback Joey? If you don't want it anymore.
Nope, I need everything. I'm slowly trying to become Johnny. It takes a long time to try to become Johnny, and he keeps buying more stuff. So I don't know how it's gonna work.
Ed, how close are you on your Genesis set? You mentioned that you were going for that, but didn't mention how close you were.
I think I have 140 left, and 80 of them or so are sports games.
Not bad.
Yeah. Most
knock him out, Jesus.
Yeah.
Johnny, do you just want to sell him those 100-something games and then just go buy them again yourself? You seem to be a fan of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Meet me at a trailer park and we'll talk.
I might do that.
All right. So you can. We're gonna move on to the second part of the show now.
Are you hanging out?
Third part. Yeah. You want to hang out? You want to be a part of the rest of the cast? Also, guys, he's listened to this podcast before, like multiple times. He listens. I hesitate to call anyone a fan of
Eric,
this show.
Excitebike Comics and Games, who's a jerk who was on this show and listens to the occasional episode, apparently.
I mean, that's how most people listen to Most people aren't a maniac like you who consume everything.
I know, but Eric had like a couple years where he didn't listen to a single episode, and at last I heard he just started listening to an episode or two again. So shout out if Eric's actually listening.
Well, don't invoke the name drop everybody thing, okay? Like we're just trying to see if Edward wants to hang out and participate in the next half of the show, like he's one of the hosts. That sounds like. Do you want to do that, Edward?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Tyler.
Nice.
Move us on to the second half of the show, the part where we answer some questions. It's Collector's Questions.
It's time for the second half of the show. We got an hour and 20 minutes? Hour, 5 minutes. Wow, we got through that fast.
Yeah, we did good.
We stayed on target.
On the topic of video games, or this is from Daddy Mulk. On the topic of video games or otherwise, what's the worst take you've heard from one of your co-hosts? Also, person who is called out, defend your bad take.
Okay.
I'll start. I'll say there's an entire Collector's Quest episode. I was very new to the show when this happened. I've mentioned this before. We did it on price differences during Christmas, and we did not do any kind of statistical analysis.
That's not true.
We cherry-picked a bunch of data that fit our hypothesis.
No,
but there was no overall analysis.
Incorrect.
It was a bad episode, and I was not yet established enough to call Johnny out on it.
You are such bullshit. It is an established event. Like you bring this up all the time. It's, you know what it's like? It's like those people who have a wife who like brings something up like 5 years later that they're still harping on.
Yeah, Johnny, how are we supposed to differentiate between his terrible takes?
I don't know. I'm
everything I say is correct, and everybody agrees with me, so I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Let me defend my take. The focus of the episode was that on certain games, not all games, that there is a bump. Like, we focused on those games because at Christmas, other people, like Tyler, and I know you don't understand holidays or joy or love, so let me explain that people sometimes, like outside of yourself, will buy you things because they love you and want to give you a gift. for whatever reason, religious, but they do it, and they aren't as skilled or as in deep as you are. So you will see a bump on the generic items, your Marios, your Zeldas, like the easy stuff. You will see those get a little bump because when people think, oh, what does my husband want? He wants a Zelda. They're not like, I should probably go find him, I don't know, that Wayne's World for the Super Nintendo or something. They're or Rubik's on the PlayStation. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about the common games. So we're talking about the big names, the popular games, and you may have seen a phenomenon where all the popular games suddenly became very expensive, as if to prove my point. But at Christmas, that's a microcosm of that effect. That's all we were talking about. And we showed that there is a price. And if you look at the price curves, Tyler, we did have research.
Looking at a price curve is not the same as getting a p-value less than 0.05 and doing it for an entire console set or every video game on price charting.
We weren't talking about everything.
Also, this is for our shitty podcast.
No, some episodes we put a bunch of research into, and that episode we totally winged it. And we're just the data will definitely support a hypothesis.
And it did on all of the ones we were talking about. And that was the point. It's like we weren't bringing up obscure stuff. I'm sorry you have to see us fight, Edward.
Oh, no, I enjoy it.
Stefan's worst take was selling 6,000 video games.
Best decision.
Edward, let's get Edward's take on that. How do you feel about Stefan just totally becoming a sellout and ditching all his games? Good take or bad take?
Well, honestly, I wondered about that because in your interview, Stefan, you had mentioned that you used to have a Ninja Turtles collection as well. And it made me think of, what it made me think of is, have either of you seen that movie adaptation with, I think Meryl Streep and Nicolas Cage and...
Yeah. So
the
guy who did Being John Malkovich.
Yeah. There's a guy in there talking about how I love turtles, and then one day I was like, fuck turtles, and never wanted to see another turtle again. That reminded me of Stefan, and so I was like, thinking to myself, I was like, is this going to happen with video games at some point? And then apparently it did.
Yeah, it's because Stefan doesn't love things. He bails on them.
But Ed's like the only one in this call that's like, well, actually, Johnny, have you seen since the art collection has exploded? Have you seen? Have you been here?
No, but I follow you on Facebook, so I feel like I'm
just saying, you see. I mean, you saw exactly what I did with that $6,000 worth worth of liquidity. So.
Yeah, no,
$6,000.
It's way cooler. It's way cooler for sure.
$6,000.
You know that Stefan made me almost cry in his home and made me shake to where I couldn't even film anymore because. I had
Tyler.
Yeah, so I had said that I was we were just filming his collection, and I had come across his Battletoads Double Dragon Nintendo Power painting, and I was like, "Oh, this is my favorite one here." And as I move to another room, he comes out with a folded piece of paper, and he's like, "Take a look at this," and I took a look at it. I was like, "Oh, that's amazing!" And as I hand it back to him, he's like, "Oh no, that's yours." And I couldn't even film anymore. I was shaking. I was like, "Oh my god, this is the best."
It was
gift I've ever
the pencils
gotten.
For that piece.
Yeah.
Well, that was very generous of you, Stefan. I give you a last ship, but that was nice of you.
It really was. Yes, I've seen that on the social media, and now we call him Stefan the Magnanimous.
No, we don't. But if you really liked his Genesis collection, it was mine.
I actually
and now it is many
people's.
I
knew that as well.
Yeah. Now it's somebody else's.
One time, right?
Yeah. No, he came over, we did the deal, and then a day later or a week later, I bought someone else's collection. I was like, let's put it all back.
I was
like, how do I make this collection worse?
I was like, hey man, I just wanted so after we did this deal, I was like, hey, can I just come over and hang out? And he's like, yes, but you have to promise to not be mad. And I came over, and he had overnight rebuilt the Genesis collection that I had purchased from him the day before.
Well, I just didn't want you to think I didn't want you to feel like it was something underhanded. I like to be to be above board with people. I'm not an asshole. Well, that's not true. That's a
look. I understand targets of opportunity better than most. Yeah.
Well, so, if anybody wants to trade, I can make a commercial for you. I can shoot a birthday party. I can do whatever, or 4 birthday parties. If anybody wants to trade me Outback Joey for work rendered, I'll do that.
It's okay. It's not part of the set. Just don't worry about it. Get those sports games.
No. I'm not one of those people.
It's so not part.
It's part of the set. It's a game that I need.
Show me where it says Genesis anywhere on that.
Tyler, you're the asshole who cares about the chips. It's built in a Genesis shell. It plays in a Genesis. The cart is a Genesis cart.
So the unlicensed NES games are part of the licensed NES set.
My favorite NES game is unlicensed game.
No. It is licensed, though. It's not unlicensed. So
is it
get the
licensed
fuck out.
to play on the Sega Genesis? Because that's what all the NES games say.
My God. Tyler, you are such an asshole. Like, what? Oh, God. I love you, but honestly, like, I think I want to kick you.
Edward,
your
since we are
so
technically
wild.
on a question, what is the worst take you've heard on the Collector's Quest podcast?
I hope it's from Tyler just now.
That unlicensed games and games that don't say Genesis on them aren't part of the collection.
Oh my God.
Yeah, got him. Yeah, fuck out of here, Tyler.
Do either of you have a bad take to bring up?
So you don't count like the Blockbuster Game Factory games or anything like that?
As part of the set, no.
No, I don't count those as part of the set, but they're awesome. I call them collection plus items.
In my hand right now, I'm holding a cart that John Riggs made for me for my birth announcement. It's me and my wife on a Sega Genesis game. I consider that part of the set too.
Part of the set.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some like weird ones that I like. It's not part of the set, but I put it in the collection. Some
of my favorite games for the Nintendo are unlicensed games. I love Chiller. It's one of the games I remember as a kid, like growing up, and just how taboo that game was. And we actually talked about that game in the documentary. There's
Hold on, Tyler,
first band game.
This is perfect, Edward. Thank you for saying this. I'm sorry to interject because Tyler is always like, no one, like, because I always bring up Chiller as a game that like people know. And Tyler's like, no one ever thinks about Chiller. Okay, Johnny, you're a crazy person. And then you said it.
I'm still recovering by the fact that someone loves Chiller. Like,
yes!
What? I get you're a horror guy. It makes sense. But
so, spoiler alert, there's a whole chapter in the documentary called The Anti-Nintendo Game, and it talks about controversial Nintendo games, whether we go through all the Pan-Asian games, we go through the controversial games like Chiller and the other ones with violence in them. And it's always been something that even as a kid, I don't know. You guys, how old are you guys? I just turned 35. I know Stefan. I don't know how old you are, Tyler, but are you around that age?
I'm 32.
Okay.
I grew up with a Genesis just like you. I just thought the NES
when you
was
grew
cooler.
when you grew up, was it a thing to go to like the video store and rent Faces of Death and then tell your friends about it?
Yes.
No, because I always went to the video store with my parents, so I wasn't going to rent Faces of Death. Faces of Death at like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video?
Yes,
no,
yes.
Was it at Blockbuster?
They were.
Like we always went to the local store.
So they only made it. So they only made it to certain smaller stores, and it was because people at first just thought it was a horror movie. Then when like the word got out about it, it got put into like the adult section sometimes, or just removed from the store. But usually the places where you could find Faces of Death, you could find Chiller and all those unlicensed games as well. So Chiller was always like the video game equivalent of Faces of Death when I was growing up. So it was like a taboo type of thing. And you tell your friends like, hey, I just played this game about torturing people on my Nintendo when you're playing these Jesus games and these little kids games about a plumber.
Man, Faces of Death. What a bad thing I did not need to see. My friend sat me down, like we watched the Thriller video, and he's like, my older brother has this. And I think it was Faces of Death 2. It's the one with the girl, maybe it's even 3. But it's the one with the girl water skiing. And she's water skiing topless, and she gets chopped up by the boat. She gets run over by the propeller. And like it was very confusing to me because like we'd all see these horrible things and then boobs come out, and young enough, but also old enough to be like, boobs. And then she gets killed. And then I'm like, ugh, why is this happening? I was done with Faces of Death after that. I was like, I don't need these conflicting feelings.
And then it came out later that all the human deaths were actually fake in those. The only thing that was real was the stuff in the slaughterhouse that it showed. But like you can see that now in any PETA documentary.
Yeah, well, and then I wasn't because they like very famously showed a cremation and stuff. Anyways, yeah,
not in the first one. Maybe in the sequels. I haven't seen the sequels. I've only seen the first one.
I think I've seen like the first 3.
I'm done with this. After the third one, it's a little bit much Faces of Death for me.
You're a kid and you're out. You're a kid in the 80s and you're out and like. You're at a friend's house and he's like, check out this thing I just got. And you're like, okay, here we go. Like, what are you going to do? Like walk away, be like, no, I'm done with this and get teased for the rest of your life?
A question.
What?
I said we're still
on a question. My movie hey, check it out. I got this was Fritz the Cat. It was like, oh man, we're going to watch a cartoon cat have sex, guys.
Yeah, I like mine better. Gross, Tyler. You're weird.
That director made a lot of cool movies, but some of them are very.
You guys were never in middle school. You're like, whoa, a movie with nudity? Holy shit!
No.
Ralph Bakshi is the guy who directed that. He did Fire and Ice. He did Wizards. He did Cool World. Yeah, that's like his Lord of the Rings. Most
he did
accessible
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Those are accessible too, but like he did a lot of like stuff based on like race relations of the time, because all these movies were like from the 70s and 60s and stuff. Some of them were really
a lot of rotoscoping.
Yeah. Wizards was probably his best, if I had to say.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his work because I like weird movies. Anyways, Stefan, go on.
What was I was trying to think for my answer to this question. I was trying to think about you and I, and the episode a couple years ago made it on like one of my when we were like stack ranking our stuff. Yes, what were we arguing about?
I don't
like. There was an episode where we genuinely argued, and I can't remember what it was about.
I don't remember, but your take was wrong. Was my stance.
Yeah, right. That's what that and you thinking my take was wrong is a bad take, and I wanted to talk about that.
Well, can't remember.
I just can't for the life of me remember.
Yeah. Well, guess we'll just have to move on.
I remember walking away from the reason why I love that episode so much is because we like argued and then like remained friends.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it was a good example of how like you can vehemently disagree with someone and have it be okay.
Well, I'm like, you guys know how I am. I'm such an ass. I'm like always screaming at Tyler and you. But I don't have any teeth in my I'm just that way. I'm happy to argue with people, but I like to argue passionately. Yeah.
Are you part Italian?
Yeah, I'm Italian. Yeah.
Is Johnny Iucci Italian?
Yeah. I just want to make sure. Some people have names like that, but they're like, no, I'm like 3%.
Yeah, no. My dad was 100% Italian, and I'm over here talking with my hands right now.
I feel like anybody in my Sicilian side of the family will argue about anything at any time with anyone. So I totally get what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I'm Italian enough that there was some Subway commercials during like the Super Bowl like 2 years ago where they had like fake Italians on being Italian for their Italian hero, and I was vaguely offended. I'm Italian enough to be offended by that.
Are you offended by Mario being played by Chris Pratt?
No. I mean, Chris Pratt isn't great. That's my hot take for all you Chris Pratt fancies. Like, fine in Parks and Rec, but everything else he's like pretty mediocre.
But he's not Italian at all.
Oh no, he's going to be a horrible Mario, but that's not because he's not Italian. That's just because he's medium talent.
Is he going to do the stereotypical like Italian accent? Because that would be very weird, especially in today's like society. I feel like him doing like a stereotypical Italian accent would be a little bit I don't off-putting.
I think they're just going to drop. I think they're probably going to. It's all going to happen in the Mushroom Kingdom, and they aren't going to make any reference to where they're from, and he won't have an accent.
I'm just hearing that. Is he like really cast as Mario? I saw the cast, but
yes.
I thought he was like, why? That sounds like the worst. I won't say the worst casting because there's been some pretty horrible casting. But yeah, that seemed like not good. Like Johnny Depp being Tonto casting.
The shitty part too is that like Charles Martinet is in the movie cast as like a bunch of different ancillary characters, but he's not playing Mario.
So it's going to be like, it's a me, not Mario.
How old is Charles Martinet? Because it could just be that
old enough that he can still talk.
I know, but is he going to sound like old man Mario if he tries to carry an entire movie compared to young, handsome Chris Pratt?
I'd love to see an old man Mario movie.
It'll be just like old man Logan. He'll be wearing turtles on his back, like turtle shells. And he'll have to talk about
killed.
all the, like just the horrors of all the Goombas he's killed over the year. Like Mario's a stone cold murderer. Yeah. Like
remember, all those blocks have faces.
Yeah, just Mario is actually a horror anthology. People just don't realize it. Anyways,
Johnny, do you have a bad take?
Tyler's like we've already discussed it. Do we have another question, or did that go on long enough for you, Tyler?
Just something Tyler. Everything Tyler says.
Everything Tyler says.
No, that we covered it with what Edward said about you not taking Outback Joey as being part of the set. Definitely is.
Oh, right.
All right.
I agreed. I agreed with
really easy question.
Guest.
Really good for a guest from Tom Nook. If you had to start your entire collection over, except for 3 games, what 3 games would those be?
Ooh. All right.
Edward.
Yeah, you're our guest. You get to go first.
Okay. So I would say Gunstar Heroes. I would say Streets of Rage 2 and Sonic 2.
Sonic 2 would be a really difficult one to reacquire, so that's pretty understandable.
You did trade me a Streets of Rage 2. I don't know if you remember when we did that trade. One of the things you brought me was a Streets of Rage 2.
Oh, did I? Yeah. I probably had a second copy.
You were doing multiple trades at the time at the convention. I just think that's funny. That's how that worked out.
Yeah. No, it's. I have it both for. I have the Japanese version and the American version. The Japanese versions of of all 3 of those games are far superior, but yeah, I would still say Streets of Rage 2. If we were also including games I don't have but I've played, I would say Alien Soldier over Gunstar Heroes, because I feel like it's just Gunstar Heroes but on steroids. Yeah, it's an amazing game if you haven't played it.
So Tyler, you want to answer next, but like it's an interesting question. So are we talking from a nostalgia perspective, or like should we answer financially?
I mean, I'm just going to assume it's like, what's your favorite stuff or stuff that might be the hardest to get again? I'm not just going to say my 3 most expensive games. That's not a very fun way to answer the question.
Well, I answered it wrong then.
No, you answered from nostalgia. You gave a nostalgia answer, which is great.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, mine, I would say like Charmander Zelda doesn't come up a lot, and I would just keep that because I think it's probably like the coolest thing in my collection. And then my 2 favorite games are Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, which I have both of them sealed. But the Ocarina of Time is like maybe like the most common sealed game ever graded. So I'm giving up Ocarina of Time, but I'm keeping the Mario 64. And then Doom is my favorite game after that. So I will keep my...
No Ninja Gaiden?
Not like Ninja Gaiden 3's in the top 10, but I mean, you can't beat Mario, Zelda, and Doom. Okay. Even though I'm the biggest Metroid fan on the show, as we all know.
Shut the fuck up.
Metroid Prime would be right after that. But Doom 1.1 or Doom version 1.1 is the first mail order version of Doom.
Yeah, this episode brought to you by Wrong Answers Only from Tyler.
I'm sorry, it would be my Hang Tab Metroid, a Complete in Box Super Metroid, and Metroid Prime, the first print made in Japan Metroid Prime, not the made in USA bullshit. They were probably
that's a Tyler answer I expected right there.
There you go.
See that in the documentary.
Okay. Stefan, since you don't own games except for a few, let's hear what you're not giving up.
I love that, like we are in a point in our lives where like me owning 3,000 games
just
is
a
like
few.
a few.
I mean, you're a peasant collector now.
Yeah, that's fair. So mine are totally a nostalgia answer, right? Or just what they mean to me personally. And it's like those particular copies of these games. So my childhood copy of Super Mario 3. It's the only game in the room that is from my childhood, my like original
Not
childhood
true.
collection.
100% false.
Yeah, Growl is in there too. But that's like Genesis. Like that's further along in my childhood, right? So like Mario 3
you were about
is like
to
my
say
only...
with Edward on the show. That's Genesis. It doesn't matter.
No. So my Genesis copy, cart only copy of Growl, and that's because I sold it at most people know this story, but I sold it at a yard sale when I was very young, and then it made its way back to me via a retro game store up north after having traveled 3,000 miles or whatever, like thousands of miles, and like 20 years, 30 years. And it actually made its way back to me. So I now re-own that copy, which is just an incredible story, and I love that. My grandfather also gave that to me for a birthday. And then my copy of Stadium Events, which my late wife Heather gave me as a gift for taking care of her through her stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So those are definitely the three that I would.
Oh, so Growl is on the list? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm in. All right, all three have
those are top
personal
three.
stories attached to them. Man, your list is so much better than ours. Well, actually, I don't know what Johnny's list is, but I'm saying Stefan's list is the best so far.
Mine's not good. Yeah.
Go for it, Johnny.
Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, because I still it's my childhood copy, so it's not in the original box. I put it in a different box, but that because it's not replaceable. As we went through in all of my childhood history episodes, don't have much of that stuff left. But Final Fantasy II, also just like my favorite Final Fantasy, one of them. So that one stays. And then I get a financial answer, like, because I wouldn't want to try and rebuy it. And if I needed to try and acquire more games, Outback Joey in box would be the thing that I could use to get more games if I wanted. And then
Johnny, Blockbuster World Championships.
That's
too?
the next answer.
So you're just gonna
have that?
Take it to the bank.
Yeah. I do have the Blockbuster World Championship card. I have.
Well,
all
you're
the
going to be in the
Genesis
part
cards, even
2
the
of
new
the documentary, and I won't take no for an answer.
Okay, well, you can come up and you can look at all the Blockbuster stuff. I'll borrow one of Stefan's Blockbuster signs as a nice backdrop.
Johnny, you might have to like remind the world that exists, because fucking no one cares.
No one
people
cares.
are like talking about NWC being worth $200,000.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there's like 12 Blockbuster carts known to exist. And I'm just sitting over here with one of them. And people are like, I don't know, I'll give you a couple $100, I guess. No, thanks.
I'll give you.
Hasn't there been one on and off eBay for like 20 grand?
Do you want like one of my kidneys, or seriously? What?
I mean, I'm like a fat diabetic, so I might need a kidney. So we'll talk later.
I don't know. I've been barking up that tree for a long, long time.
Oh, it's sold. Dude, it sold 6 days ago.
Really?
$25,000
I mean,
one?
maybe we're in the times. Blockbuster World Championships too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's real sale, but in these days, it sure seems like it would be $25,000.
Holy shit.
I mean,
Man, so I should put that in something sturdier than a flimsy plastic box protector for carts.
Is it ridiculous that the first thing I thought when you told me that number was, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is ridiculous.
It's so much less than NWC now. Because
I still think I thought it would go for more than that.
Yeah, like
no, like this guy had trouble selling it. This has been on eBay for a long time.
Yeah. I've seen it. And then there was another one that the same guy had. It was like an in-store Blockbuster Judge Dredd, but it wasn't the championships.
Huh.
But he was selling it for like $5,000, and then it was gone one day.
Another answer, like if I was like replacing it with like a nostalgia item, would be my copy of Shining Force 3, because that was the copy I bought while I was in the Air Force. So that was like when I was getting back into gaming. So if I was replacing one of those,
the bonus disc, because we know you vastly overpaid for your bonus disc.
I sure did. Back when people gave a shit about Shining Force, those were the days. All right.
I really like that cart you have from the Disneyland exhibit.
Oh, God, that's such a good one too.
That one sticks.
Yeah, I have a cart Edward, if you haven't seen it, it's Fantasia, and it was from Disney's House of the Future when they had those installs at Disneyland and the House of the Future where you could play it.
Yeah.
I have a copy of Fantasia from one of those.
Oh, wow.
So.
The coolest thing I think I have, I have a few test cartridges for Double Dragon for the Genesis, the sample carts.
Nice.
I have the two Blockbuster things I mentioned earlier. I just got a Atomic Robo Kid from Mike Dugerio. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but you guys probably know him. He has all the prototypes. But I guess it's like he's holding on to it for me right now. I'm just paying him in installments, but essentially it's a very early version of that with different menus and different levels and that kind of thing of Atomic Robo Kid for the Genesis.
Is that like a pre-release thing, or is there just like a variant that has all different stuff in it?
No, it's like a very early prototype.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and then I have the same thing.
You scared me when you said very early. I'm like, do I have to track down this rare Atomic Romo Kids software thing? But good, it's a prototype.
No, you don't collect things that are actually rare.
I have a rare version
get out of here.
Boogerman for the I have a Boogerman for the SNES as well that's just been at WATA for like a year at this point. So yeah, I can't wait to get that back either because I paid for the whole thing for them to do like a tell me everything that's different about the game and all that kind of stuff. So it's the longboard one. So
nice. Okay,
everything
Tyler,
else is kind of.
We've answered the questions. We've done it. Shall we move on to what we're buying and playing?
Yes,
Did we
Johnny.
have more?
What are you buying? What are you playing? Edward, we'll start with you.
Sure. So today in the mail, I got 3 sealed Genesis games. I got Echo Junior, which is like probably, I would say, like a 9.5 box. It's perfect condition. I got a True Lies.
I think that game's harder to find complete in box than sealed.
It's also hard to find
Echo
it
Junior?
without sun fade on it. Keep that thing away from
this
all
is
light.
this is a really good one. So I got that. I got not True Lies. What the hell is it? 1 second. I guess it is True Lies. No, it's Last Action Hero. That's what it is. I got a Last Action Hero sealed, which is in very good condition. Sorry, I'm like looking across the room without trying to get out of my headphone reach. I got a sealed Eternal Champions Mega Box Mega Hit Series for the Genesis. And I got a James Pond sealed for the Genesis. That was all today. But the thing I'm most happy about is I think Tyler saw it on my Instagram, or at least he liked the photo. But I found like $500 worth of Power Rangers, etc. figures on the side of the road yesterday. And I put a big picture out of all of them. Like one of the figures alone is like 2 feet tall, and it's worth like over $100 just for that. And it was just on the side of the road. Someone threw them away.
I mean, it looks pretty cool.
It is. There's a lot of
I don't
cool
know how to
stuff in
describe any of it. It's not the Megazord. Is it the Megazord, or is it like one of the?
It's a newer Megazord. So it's a so this one's called the Lion Zord, Fire Lion Zord, and it's like the equivalent of like back in our day, it'd be like the Pyramidus of today. So it's like the one that all the other ones attach to, but it's like the one that makes everything huge. But this is like probably the biggest ever released of the official like Megazords or whatever. But it's from Power Rangers Ninja Steel, and I had to look that up because I didn't watch it past like season 3. But yeah, that toy alone is like worth $100, and there's barely anything missing from it. The parts that are missing for it are like $3 and $6 or whatever. But then there was like a Voltron. There's all the more like the wolves from Voltron. There's little like micro machines of like Yoshi and Bowser. There's a bunch of DC stuff. There's the original Megazord re-release from 2015, so it was like some pieces of that, which is the T-Rex.
2015? What's this person doing throwing it out if they were collecting stuff in 2015? Like, you're probably holding on to it.
I'm pretty sure it's a little kids stuff. I'm pretty sure it's a little kids stuff, because none of the stuff is like terribly old. Like, all the stuff is like from 2013 and on.
Okay.
but yeah, like I priced it out just to see like this person gave away like it was either close to $500 or $600 worth of stuff. Just threw it on the side of the road. So
maybe
heard of Goodwill. This is very rude.
Probably Dennis Con.
It was probably somebody's mom for a kid who just went off to college. Like
Dennis Con's mom.
Yeah. That happened to me. My mom gave away tons of my stuff when I went to California, and I said, "Yeah, just hold on to this." And then one day she told me I had you know how turtles like live for a very long time. I had 3. They're called diamondback terrapins. Super like rare like turtles. Like they have like white skin, purple shells, black spots. And the whole tank to go with it, like a 100-gallon tank. And one day she tells me that she sold all my turtles and the tank for $50 to someone on Craigslist.
Oh my god!
It was probably like a $4,000 tank, and each of the turtles was probably like $1,500.
Oof!
I hate your mom.
Yeah. But on the flip side, I had a yard sale that I went to a few years ago, and someone sold me their son's entire Pokemon card collection for $20, and I ended up putting it on eBay, and I'm still selling some of them to this day, and I've already made probably like $8,000 or $9,000 off of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pretty good return.
Yeah.
Take that, yard sale kid.
Just to harp on one thing, not harp on it, but to go back, James Pond on Genesis, that's a game I upgraded 1 or 2 years ago because mine wasn't in great shape, and I had trouble finding even like a pretty nice complete box. Is a sealed one of those not like pretty cool? Is that like not a serious game? Are there dual stock ones of those out there?
No, I don't think so.
This is the agent one. This isn't the James Bond. It's whatever the underwater. I think it's it might be the first one. I'm not quite sure. I literally just got them and opened the box before coming on the podcast, so I haven't actually evaluated. I think I did a video that I uploaded just to show that it was like, you know, there's not even any marks in any of the seals or anything like that. But the James Pond one is not in the amazing shape. It'd probably get like a 6 box or something like that. Let me look at it real quick. 1 second.
Okay. All right. There is one on the old eBay. Maybe I'm just crazy, but on the old
I guess it is
eBay,
the first one.
everybody rush and get your sealed James Ponds now. There's only one on eBay.
Can I say one more game that I got that I'm excited about?
Sure, go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the rarest game sealed for the PlayStation 1.
The rarest.
Yeah. It's like Aqueduct's Holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, and got that. So that is off to water already as well. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, that's kind of what I've got lately.
Awesome.
Looking forward to getting that game back in like 2025.
Yeah, sometime there.
Yeah.
My daughter
I was going to
6
ask
years old.
what tier are you going to send it in at, but they only have one open right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I already sent it. So everything I've sent in anyway, in the past year that I've sent in at the $85 tier.
I have only sent in games at the $25 and $35 tier, and I felt like I was getting ripped off at $35. And here we are.
I wasn't even aware there was a $25 and $35 tier. Is that like the 180-day turnaround?
Yeah, that was in 2018 before all this started.
Right. Back in the day.
Okay.
I told my
Before
wife,
the Rarity retro gaming in the modern era, retro collecting in the modern era documentary was made.
Yeah. It was actually before it. I sent all this stuff in.
You playing anything?
Are you playing anything?
Am I playing anything? Yeah. I haven't had a lot of time to play stuff these days. Honestly, I've played a lot of what the hell's the game for the Super Nintendo? It is the King's something. Stefan, you know the name. It's the beat 'em up. It's like
King's not King's Quest. It's
Something Court.
Not
King Arthur's Court.
No, it's King's Demon or something. No, that's the
You guys
hold
I'm
on.
gonna cut all this out so we sound like we know what we're talking about, but I'm not the Super Nintendo guy.
yeah.
King of Dragons?
Probably.
It might be King of
The
Dragons.
Lion
It's a
King?
beat up.
King of the Monsters?
No. It's like a beat up. It's like a beat 'em up of like one person's like a mage, another person is like just a strong guy.
I mean, that sounds like King of
It
Dragons.
sure sounds like King of Dragons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably
King of Dragons. Capcom beat 'em up.
Yeah, I've been playing that. I've been playing Solstice again, just because I love that game as a kid for the Nintendo. And also, after I had our interview with Stefan, I was telling him some of my favorite games, which he didn't agree. No one's favorite game is Asti and Axe for the Nintendo, but that was one of my favorite games for the Nintendo, so I've been playing that lately as well.
I agree. It's not one of my favorite games.
Me too. Me too.
That's
A
what a
list of so many good
middle
games.
of the road platform action game.
And the box is confusing. I don't like
The
the
most
box either.
interesting thing to do is learn how to pronounce it, which
Yeah,
I
and
don't
spell.
even know the
So
correct
it's like,
way to pronounce it.
I don't think I
Magic
pronounced
of
it correctly.
Charizard is the other one.
At least the magic of Scheherazade is like a thing, you know.
Yeah, but you look at that box and you have no
That's-
idea what
that's
it says.
true.
It's a metal band. It's pretty sweet. Shahrazad or Scheherazade. I don't know. It's a magic card.
Yeah, it's more than a magic card. Come on, you want to reach into
What?
history?
No, I know it's more than a magic card,
I'm like,
but the
oh my
reason that
goodness.
I can recognize the word is because it is a really cool magic card.
It is cool.
Reserve.
You know what I will say that it just made me think of? You know what I have played that's funny? So I had mentioned that there's some pornographic games in the documentary. I really quickly learned that the Atari pornographic games are a lot more hardcore than the ones for the Nintendo, than the Panasian games. Like the Panasian games, you'll see like an 8-bit nipple here and there, but like just the absurdity of the some of the Atari games. Like I was like, there's actually a text thread. I think my producer shared it to Facebook. It's just so ridiculous because it's like, dude, there's no way I can put footage of this game in this. And he's like, oh, you can just blur stuff out. I was like, dude, I'd be blurring out the whole screen. Are you guys familiar with a game called Beat 'em and Eat 'em?
Yeah, where you jizz down into a woman's open mouth, and if you don't
no,
catch
you
it,
do not.
Yes.
You play the women in that game because it's an early female protagonist game.
Yeah,
Tony.
yes, but you have to catch the jizz before it hits the floor, or you fail.
Exactly. And then at the end of each level, they lick
Just
their
like
lips.
real life.
So he's just like, yeah, just blur out the parts that we can't put in there. I was like, yeah, I don't
You're like,
think we can blur anything. And the guys aren't even guys; they're just a giant penis at the top of a building.
Yeah, and it's weirdly contracting too the whole time. Yeah, Beat 'em and Eat 'em is a hilarious. Like the fact that exists is hilarious. Unlike Custer's Revenge, which is just like, whoa, I can't believe this exists. Also, nothing you could show in that game either, because just you can clearly see it's a woman tied up being raped. So that's not great.
But
also
the
the
developer
absurdity
of
of
that
it-
game staunchly defended himself and said it's not rape.
She was
In like 1983, whenever the game was
in
made,
1983. What?
because there was controversy.
You mean? I like. Let's not get into it. Like, I don't know how someone is tied up.
I know,
and
I know.
like screaming, like animations of struggling, and then getting dick down, and that not be rape.
Yeah,
They had to say,
And then also the weirdest part about that is that guy's literally like risking his life to rape this person because he's getting shot with arrows.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't even go into any of the how culturally insensitive that is or anything like that. So
Yes. Everything about that
game is a
not
nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Edward, did you play X-Men in your Atari porn quest?
We didn't play it, but we did get some footage of the box, some really great sealed versions of it, as well as like some other porno games that people had slabbed.
Okay, so I just want to bring up X-Men as an Atari porn connoisseur who has played pretty much every Atari porn game. X-Men has an excellent mini game when you beat it, with some full screen coitus that is taking place on the Atari, and when the people participating complete, they all explode into random rainbow colors as you'd expect in Atari. It's excellent. Everyone go play X-Men.
Yeah. We're going to have to put like in the bumper, you're going to have to say that this, don't listen with kids in the room. This isn't.
Yeah.
We're we're a mature rated show now, Johnny.
That's
something we learned from our Japanese. We have a kid Shiryukin, and he's in Japan. He's American, but he's lived in Japan for a lot of years. You guys probably know him, Jim Fortnott. He was talking about how like a lot of the games that didn't make it over to America from like the Genesis and other systems and stuff, there's always because there's like things that are sexually acceptable in Japan but not here. There's like games where like you have to avoid flying penises and all this kind of stuff that didn't make it over there. But no, I'm like now because of the documentary, I'm like seeking out these weird games that came out like for the Genesis. I don't know if you guys have heard of the Divine Ceiling.
Yep.
Yeah, you just get
it's expensive too.
Yeah, it's like over a $200 game now, complete. But basically, you just
$200 used to be an expensive game.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I guess it's not so bad. Ugh.
Yeah, there was a time where I wanted a deal so bad that I stood in line for 11 hours on Black Friday at Game Dude to get a 20% deal or something like that on Musha, and it was just the cart. So I was there from like 6 in the morning, and they were like, they do a really stupid like Black Friday thing where you can't buy
Isn't the retro stuff in the afternoon?
Yeah, but I didn't know that. Like I just saw the thing. Like you still had to be there in the morning though to get your pass, because they only gave a certain amount of passes away as far as like you get to be number 1 in line once we start the retro stuff or whatever. So I was number 3 in line, and I got there at like 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. Stayed there till 11, got the pass, went back to sleep, came back at like 2 or something like that, and got my Musha for like it was like I want $60 or $70 off or something like that. But still, like I remember thinking then like, oh, I'm about to spend over $100 for a game. That's ridiculous. And the people like laughing at me because I was spending over $100 on an old Genesis game. And now I'm just like $300 and $400 is like nothing when it comes to some of the higher end stuff. So
who's laughing now?
Them still. So they saved all that money.
That's right. Still them.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good stuff. Tyler, do you want to share what you are buying and playing?
Johnny, yeah. I bought an Apogee Wolfenstein 3D. Did I talk? I don't think I talked about.
You did
this.
not. You
okay.
Didn't, I mean, I don't know. You might have, because I'm already pretty bored.
I don't think I did. You were on the show with me last time. Anyway, the original release of Wolfenstein 3D was mail order. It had no box. It came in a bubble mailer. I do not know enough about the collecting. There is not a lot of information even about the collecting differences of Wolfenstein 3D variants. There is more information out there about Doom. I do know how to check if my disc is the first version. Have not checked it yet. But anyway, so it's just a manual and a disc, and I got the hint book with it. Did not get the bubble mailer. There are people who do have the original mail order bubble mailer for Wolfenstein 3D. And this was a total FOMO purchase because one came up. They do not come up very often. And I started seeing a couple people posting Wolfenstein 3D on social media. And I'm like, what? Get out of computer games. Stop it. Like Carl Jobst is on these interviews now. And he's like, PC collecting's the next big thing, guy. Get out of here. This is my shit. Anyway, boxed copies of Wolfenstein 3D are getting up there in price. So I paid not much more to get a mail order Wolfenstein 3D, which I think it's like one of those must-have things on my long-term want list, and I paid a shitload of money for it. But now I never have to think about it again. Guys, every time you buy something
unless you want it complete, right? Unless you
in
don't
the bubble mailer,
copy, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Is it complete without the bubble mailer?
Nope.
No, it's not.
I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag, put it on the shelf. I won't even be able to see it, and I'll never think about it again. Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
But you'll know. You'll know.
I know I'll know. There's so many games that I think of, and I know.
This is my favorite thing to do to you.
My Castlevania hang tab, my nice one, the one with the big label, it's missing the sombrero on the hang tab. And I think about it every time I think about Castlevania. I'm like, oh yeah, My hang tab Castlevania is not like super nice.
God, why do you care about that?
Having the sombrero, you got to have the sombrero. Although it's like the whole box isn't there. It's only like 98% of a box.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Here's something that I bought and then immediately. So this is the opposite. I bought it and then immediately got shamed on social media. Not shamed. But, so I bought a clamshell John Madden football, which we talked about it right before the show. Wada just posted one, or Kenneth from Wada posted a sealed one on Instagram and called it a promo copy of John Madden football.
I would love to know the reasoning. I'm like, why that's a promo. I have what I always thought, but I would love to know what their confirmation was.
So, Johnny, you just told me that the clamshell doesn't have a UPC on it.
That's what I believe. That could be inaccurate.
No, that's true. I just checked mine.
Okay.
But like, I don't know how it was distributed.
That's the problem with a lot of these things. Like, and also everything coming out of EA, especially early like that, was the Wild West because the deal EA cut with Sega at the time was so strange. EA was allowed to do anything they wanted. So that could have been when they were doing like early magazine press and stuff, because they would like take those to the magazines to be reviewed. So it could have been like that. Could be something. I don't know how it's determined.
Yeah. So anyway, so I bought one, and then so Kenneth posted a sealed one, and then someone else, maybe Velvet the Elf on Instagram, also posted a sealed one. It's like, oh, okay, great. I'm so happy to just get this complete in box. Everyone's posting that they have sealed ones now. Which, like, this game, go on eBay right now, look for John Madden Football. Every single copy is going to be a cardboard box.
Yeah, I never bought a clamshell. That was like one of the things I was always missing, and I wanted. Yeah. So I'm impressed by that.
Daddy Mulk reached out. Don't be impressed. Daddy Mulk reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, this is just listed. Go buy it. I love you." Is basically what his thing said because he didn't buy it and try to flip it.
I'm sorry about that.
Also, yeah, just calling it promo. Like I just saw someone had graded a bunch of Super Nintendo or Super Famicom Gold cartridges, which were like competition cartridges or demos in Japan. I don't know a lot about Super Famicom stuff. But Wada labeled them all as mail order promos, I think. I just want to know, if you're going to label it, tell us what it means. Because, like, I know that they label all the Starbox NES games as promos, and, like, they are 100% not promos.
I was going to say, they've never
the
got
NES
it.
Box is a warranty change.
Yeah, they've never gotten any labeling wrong before.
But I mean, I don't know. I believe it's a promo. It doesn't have UPC. Anyway,
I defend that position. I have before, so yeah. But I'd be curious what the rationale was. I would love to know that. I would love to know a lot of rationale that comes out of like why things are called the way they are in video games. I would love for someone to explain to me all the secrets
and why people pay the prices they do for some of them.
Yeah, why someone would pay $700 for a copy of Wolfenstein 3D?
Stefan's calling me out.
Fucking crazy.
It was a little less than 700. Maybe,
okay,
maybe
yeah.
700.
We'll let Stefan talk, and we'll ask him why he paid so much money for some things.
What? It's like $400 for a regular ass complete in box one. Like not even like the rare first print, which the first print of the GT Interactive one has uncensored swastikas on the back. Every other version has censored swastikas. There's like a CD version. There's 100 versions of Wolfenstein 3D. The cool versions are the mail order one and the one with uncensored swastikas. And for like a year, I couldn't even find a picture of a copy with uncensored swastikas because they're that rare.
Also,
anyway.
People don't want to take pictures of swastikas.
It could
also
be that as well.
Okay, so you didn't play anything? You want to tell us about what? That's what you bought?
I also got something that maybe Edward can relate to. Edward only being 3 years older than me. You guys are too old. You're old men. I got a sealed big box Logical Journey of the Zoombinis on PC.
Nope, no one cares.
No one cares. Yeah. It's an edutainment game. It was pretty cool in the 90s. You guys had to be there.
I actually passed out when you started talking.
All right, let's talk about something interesting, guys. I beat Ultima Exodus, the game that How Long to Beat says takes 20 hours, and the back of the box says takes hundreds of hours, or like 100 hours. I found it to be somewhere in between those two numbers.
Is that the one with the gargoyles? No, right? What am I thinking of?
With the gargoyles?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking of.
You're talking to the only other person on this podcast who cares about Ultima, and Stefan. So
wait, Stefan plays Ultima games. Have you played Exodus?
I'm trying to think whether or not.
Well, there's nothing to do with gargoyles.
No, I don't think I have.
So
he had some signed Game Boy ones.
Yeah, well, yeah, I have all the Ultima games signed by Lord British, and he actually signs them Lord British, which is the best thing.
Yeah. So this is the one that's like a prototype for all party-based computer RPGs. So like Wizardry is the like dungeon crawling prototype, and this is like making serious strides in party-based RPGs. I think it's really good. It had a lot less bullshit than I would have suspected. There is a bunch of grinding, and I'd say the very last thing in the game you have to do is use the pray command on essentially a blank square, and there's no hint in the game that tells you to do that. Maybe someone would get desperate enough to try that. I don't think it's as bad as Castlevania 2. I don't think anyone in the world ever beat Castlevania 2 without help or Nintendo Power or already knowing about kneeling.
I told you
I could see someone being desperate enough to beat this.
I told you I did beat it without I found it by accident.
Yeah, so Johnny has a faulty memory when he says that, because no one has ever beaten Castlevania 2, like I said. I want to bring up one funny thing about Ultimate Exodus, because I could talk about this, for 15 minutes here. But my favorite thing is that there's a spell that lowers all enemy HP to 1 when you cast it. It hits every enemy, and it hits 100% of the time. So once you learn this spell, all the combat in the game becomes fucking pointless. But you have to regenerate your magic points after every battle. And the way you do that is by pressing the B button to essentially like skip a turn in the world. So after every battle, I would press the B button 400 times to regenerate my magic points back up, which was very fun.
Which sounds just like why you like RuneScape.
I mean, there is a thing to say about people who play RPGs, that they have terrible taste in game mechanics. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I started Kirby 64 because I heard in the Collector's Quest Discord that it was the de facto best Kirby game that everyone thinks is the best Kirby game, which I was not aware is an opinion. Is that strange? Who said that?
Yeah, is that an opinion that's real? I don't.
I do not believe it's an opinion that's real.
No,
It's all right. As someone who's going in and thinking I'm going to absolutely hate it, because I do not like Kirby games, because they're too easy. And this one is very easy. It's fine. It's not like... So, Kirby's Epic Yarn is like so easy that it might as well not exist as a game. And this isn't that bad. So
and this is Crystal Shards, right?
Yes, the Crystal Shards. And so, like, the gimmick is that there's 3 Crystal Shards hidden in each level. And so because there is that one thing to do is like, I have to like at least explore the level to find the Crystal Shards. That's why it's not the worst, because they're hidden, or you need certain power-up combos to go get them.
Okay. Nice.
That's
all right,
for me.
Stefan. This part of the show is becoming as long as the interview. It's horrible.
That's fair. It's been a hot minute since I've
the best thing.
Since
No.
Like it's
month.
good because
Come
I
on.
haven't really bought much.
Keep the episode going.
You're like, I bought
I bought a
100
bunch
easels.
I mean, I bought a bunch of McDonald's changeables, which was very exciting. But as far as the collection anyone cares about, the big thing that I bought was the Rick and Morty comic book. They did an issue called Pocket Like You Stole It. It was like a mini series. So Pocket Like You Stole It #1 had a variant cover that was an homage to Nintendo Power #1. It was a clay sculpture of Morty being chased by Rick, who also resembles Wart from Mario 2. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I wonder if that actually still exists. And I reached out to the artist, and indeed, that sculpture did exist. And we came to a deal, and I now have that in the Art of Nintendo Power collection. So while the clay sculpture for issue 1 no longer exists, this was just kind of a cool, like, I think it's kind of neat to also sort of document and preserve cultural impact of Nintendo Power. And so that sculpture is really cool. And that was like my most recent significant get for that collection. And that is up on my Instagram if people want to see that.
Nice. And what'd you play?
No, tell he's not been here for a month. He's allowed to talk about more things he bought, unless there's nothing.
No, I mean that's kind of like to Johnny's point. I have been buying stuff for the actual, like, being able to display the collection publicly, and so yes, I did buy
easels?
Like
what's a good
40
easel to display your artwork collection stuff.
God, no one cares.
Arteza, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so I actually have. I know I'm usually one of the ones that never has anything to play or never plays anything. But in the Nintendo Direct the other day, they surprised us all with a remake of one of my favorite games of all times. They remade ActRaiser. ActRaiser Renaissance is the name of the game. And they were like, yeah, we're doing this, and it's out today. So I've been playing ActRaiser Renaissance. I like it, but I think I like it mostly because I like ActRaiser. But they didn't. So my 2-second review is they didn't screw up anything existing, but then they just added a bunch of stuff to make it longer, and it just that doesn't feel good to me. So I don't really like the new stuff, but I like the old.
You sound like an old man.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
What? No, the old man would be me, who's like, I'm not playing a remake. I'm just going to go play ActRaiser.
Anyway, I really like it. It's just, longer for no reason.
Sometimes you need to make a game better by editing out the bad parts. Like how in Mega Man 3, they should have edited out all those Mega Man 2 bosses.
I mean, that's like a Mega Man gimmick always, isn't it?
I don't know, because I stopped playing the regular Mega Man games after Mega Man 3 because I was so tired of...
Maybe it's just that you always have to go back and play all the bosses over again. I can't remember. Mega Man 2 is the best Mega Man.
You play all the bosses over again, but you also play like a little section where you fight the Mega Man 2 bosses.
Well,
why is this in the game?
Yeah, it's awful. It's not fun, especially the part with the dragon. Ugh, not a fan. Anyways, I'll tell you guys very quickly what I bought. I think I alluded to this stupid thing I did. So there is... I'm sorry, Stefan, did you have any more stuff? I apologize. I just ran over your ending.
Nope, that was it.
So I have Daredevil or Ghost Rider for the PS2, and I put it in. Someone's like, "Do you have the comic book?" And I was like, "Huh." Do I have the comic book that's included in this? And not every version has a comic included, and it's a stupid PS2 game. So they mention the comic on the back of the box. So you have to flip it over to see the promo, unlike on Xbox where they'll flash it right up on the front. So I was like, okay, which comic is it? It's a Rise of the Silver Surfer comic, because Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer movie was coming out apparently. Don't worry, no one saw it and was awful, and everyone would love to forget it. Anyways, this comic was in there, and I was like, oh man, I have it. And then I realized I have the wrong one in my box, because after looking at several different copies for multiple consoles, there are 2 different versions of the stupid fucking comic put inside. There's like a fat, short one with like black borders on the art, and then there's a tall, skinny one. So the tall, skinny one without black borders goes with your Ghost Riders, and then all the shorter, fatter ones go with your Xbox 360 ones, your PS3 one, and the PlayStation one, but for Rise of the Silver Surfer, not Ghost Rider. Because they put the same... That's what I meant to... I should have put that first. They put that same comic in with Rise of the Silver Surfer. Ghost Rider is only on the PS2. And PSP, I think. So yeah, but it's not with the PSP, at least not in the ones I saw. Anyway, so I bought like 5 copies of this stupid game to just like be double checking all of this and look for minute differences, because that's kind of idiot I am. Yeah, that was great.
Many comic differences, Johnny. Look forward to the Modern Database video about this mini comic coming up in 2 weeks.
I hope that isn't a thing. Yeah, and then I bought bought a couple other games. I'm like, I was looking, I'm like, what other games come with comic books? Did you know Tom and Jerry in War of the Whiskers on the PS2 has a comic book? Yeah, it does. Looks exactly like the manual. So that's a thing I bought because my copy didn't have it. And I bought, I keep mentioning this like on social media and like in our Discord and stuff because it's kind of funny. Anyways, Barnyard Blast Swine of the Night is a game on the DS. And yeah, it's like a Halloween game and it's got a pig on it and he shoots a gun and his nickname is Big Balls. And it's like an homage to Castlevania. He also has a whip. His name, his lineage, his family name is Belmart. Yeah, it's really a strange thing and it's kind of collectible and it was been on my list for a while, but I finally got it. So that's what I bought. And then also like Stefan, the Nintendo Direct got me. They dropped that Castlevania Advance Collection and I was on that real quick. Downloaded it and I've been playing Circle of the Moon and it's so nice to play these games on a TV and not like have to hook up a bunch of different stupid stuff like through my Game Boy player or anything. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just go play it. And I'll play it in a way that makes Tyler cringe and want to die. Like I'll stretch the art so it fits the full screen so I don't have to look at black bars. Yeah, it's great. Just
What's
wonderful.
wrong with you? After this podcast, I'm getting ready to go play Diablo 2 with the old graphics, which will have black bars on the side of the screen, and it's going to be great.
You can stretch it probably if you go into the settings. I'm not going to reveal if I actually do that, but I'm going to tell you I do that every time because I know it hurts your feelings.
I could probably go through like your social media and find like some NES game you're playing on an LCD where it's stretched because I don't think you care that much.
I don't care that much. The presentation is part of it, but the fun of the game is the most important part to me. And if it's not pixel perfect, that's fine. But I will let you know, Tyler, there is a pixel perfect version of the game that you can choose to play.
What, Circle of the Moon?
Of all of them in all the Castlevanias. There's 4 Castlevanias. The 3 GBA ones and then Dracula X. And I don't know if they put the Super Nintendo one in there or if it's the TurboGrafx one. I'll have to look.
Oh, you're saying that in this compilation you could play them with the shitty graphics?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's the same graphics they have, but you can stretch it or make it like 4x3, or you can they've got a pixel perfect mode. So I'm just telling you that's in there. And that's it.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I got. We probably put Edward to sleep with all our boring ass talk.
I'm just listening because I have no idea about any of that. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, we didn't give you much chance to talk. We let you go first, and then you just like have to listen to us. But I guess that's kind of what you do if you listen to this podcast, so it's fine. All right. Guys, anything else before we wrap this up? No? A resounding silence. Okay. Edward, tell us where we can find you on social media, and then tell us again just where we're going to watch the movie, what our opportunities are, where we can go see it, and then where we can pay you for a physical copy. So go ahead.
Sure. So my Instagram is an antihero production with underscores between each word. I'm also an antihero on Twitter. You can see the movie in person if you live in California or you want to travel to California on October 5th. 9:30 p.m. It's part of the Silicon Beach Film Festival happening the 1st through the 7th, but our screening is 9:30 p.m. on October 5th, and we'll have 15 of 20 cast members there, as well as people bringing some items like the Golden Wii and other things like that you can take pictures with, etc. If you aren't able to make it to that screening, we are able to show you the film for pretty much like no price at all. Streaming, we're going to have it on Tubi, we're going to have it on Amazon Prime, we're going to have it on Plex, and depending on where you are located, whether that's in a different country or whatever, there should be a app where you can watch it for free if you just have like an Amazon Fire Stick or Roku or something like that. It'll be on some free app where you can access it. And then furthermore, we're going to have a release on DVD and Blu-ray, and that's going to happen sometime, we're hoping, in mid-November. And if you want any info about the film and want to keep up with where it's going and what's happening, I would say the best place to look is the Facebook page, which is, if you just look up Rarity Retro Video Game Collecting in the Modern Era, it is a group there, and we have updates and behind-the-scenes stuff and all that kind of stuff. But thank you guys so much for having me again.
Oh, thank you for joining us and sharing, your process of making this movie and some of the cool stories that didn't make the cut. So this will be a nice companion piece for people who watch the movie.
Thank you, man.
Stefan, we haven't heard from you in a long time. Where can we still find you? Do you exist? And did you do anything recently that people might want to watch as well?
Yeah, so hey, best way to find me on most social is just to Google Art of Nintendo Power, but I am Art of Nintendo Power on YouTube. I am Art of Nintendo Power with underscores on Instagram, and then on Twitter, I'm just at Art of NP. Most recent thing I did was at the Megabit Retro Gaming Convention in Simi Valley, California recently. I did have the debut showing of the Art of Nintendo Power exhibit. It went really, really well. The reception was awesome. Definitely scheduled some more shows. That I think the one that I can talk about so far is I will be at the SoCal Retro Gaming Expo next year. I think is it February, Johnny? I think that
can't
sounds
remember.
Right. February?
It's Super Retro Game. I don't know her handle. She keeps changing
February.
her handles.
Yeah. February 21st, I believe it is, or something.
Yeah, and that's
So
friend of the show.
You'll be at the screening as well before that, right? You'll be at the screening before that, right?
I will, but I'm not going to have an exhibit there.
I mean, you could.
You can still get an autograph.
It's true.
Oh,
if you want me to
gross.
sign stuff, I'll
That
sign
You
sounds
it.
can walk
like
around with a
catharsis.
Mario trophy.
No one ever showed me a Stefan autograph. Actually, do. You should at me with all of them. That would kind of be hilarious way to troll me.
So yeah, that went really, really well. Look forward to hearing more on future exhibits of Art of Nintendo Power in the future. There's a video of that show, by the way, on my YouTube. It's the most recent YouTube video on my channel. So yeah, go check that out. And that's
Should
me.
you plug anybody who helped you with that?
Birdman Photos. He's an amazing photographer that he does almost exclusively videography and photography of art shows. So that was awesome. Also, our overlord and master, Cheap Games, Chris Hong.
That's Red the Game Shark.
Red the Game Shark. He also did all the music for that video. So thanks, man. That was awesome.
And Tyler, what about you? Where do we find you?
Default GEN. I'm on Video Game Sage and Instagram, and that's it.
And,
I'm other
Hyper,
places.
I can't help you yet.
Also, our Patreon, which is a good time to bring it up. So if you wish to join the show and submit collectors' questions and hang out with a bunch of awesome people who we name drop often on the show because they're super knowledgeable and hang out on our Discord and help us and help bring you content for the show, you can do that by going to patreon.com/collectorsquest, and where you can join for as little as $2 or as much as $6 a month, but don't spend any more than that, please. And again, I mentioned the whole household thing. If you have multiple people in your household, just message me and I will get your secondary household member in. No, I don't want to double dip on anyone. So yeah, you can join us there. You can ask questions, hang out on the Discord, and even get some bonus content when we do After Dark episodes, which happen from time to time. Anyways, you can find me on that place, the Collector's Quest Discord, and I am Johnny_Iucci on Instagram. And yeah, that's the show. Hey, Edward, thanks again for coming on. I'm really looking forward to seeing the movie. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make the screening. I hope. It depends how if I can get a babysitter right now, because right now my wife works, because being a nurse in a hospital, working night shift sucks when you have a child. That's it for us, though.
I bet. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, super looking forward to this. Just getting a peek behind the curtains in everyone's video game. Like, so many people just spend hours looking at bad collections on YouTube, and now we're going to see some of the best, and I'm excited. Plus, besides the narrative content and the story that you're building there and all the info that we're going to get, I'm excited to see some of these awesome game rooms. And
are you calling out the entire community's collections as bad? What just happened there?
I said there's a lot of bad game room tours on YouTube that people spend hours watching, and this, by comparison, is going to be very good. So if you're willing to spend the time, like myself, I'm calling myself out, watching shitty ones, this is a great one to go watch. So do that. Was that fair?
I think
you have some objection?
I still think you're calling people out, but yeah, sure, let's do it.
Who am I calling out?
I don't know. People who have YouTube game room tours.
There's
Kelsey Lewin of the Video Game History Foundation has a game room tour, Johnny. You're saying it's awful.
I didn't
She
say
has
that.
a bad collection.
Man, Tyler, this is my new bad you should hold on. You should be a political pundit with the way that you just create narratives the way you want. You're like, these are 4 words I understand. I'll string them together and make a story. Instead of hearing and understanding that I said there are shitty ones that you spend time watching, you went, all game rooms are shitty, especially on YouTube, said Johnny Iucci, news at 11. Like, what the hell is happening?
And isn't it funny how Johnny never states which side he would have allied with in World War II? I just think it's,
what are you trying to go here? What is this
being a political pundit, Johnny?
About World War II?
I was trying to think of something political, but you
were trying to think of something that represents your relative age. I get it. World War II is about where you live, you old fuck. All right, Tyler. Anyways, Edward, sorry. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for making this documentary for everyone to see. Everyone go check it out. If you have any questions, I'm sure Edward will gladly accept you reaching out to him, but don't bombard him. Please go see it.
You can bombard. You can bombard.
He says bombard him. Hit him up with the questions. Guys, that's it for the show. Thanks so much. We'll catch you next time. Bye!
That is our show. We did it. There's an interview episode for the first time in a couple years. Are we going to do another one in the next couple years? Probably not, but we look forward to everybody who sees this and sends us a message asking us to do a show with them. We do look forward to probably politely declining. Edward is just a very, very special man. Thank you to 8-Bit, 8bit.bandcamp.com. Don't go to 8-Bit Music. It's just 8-Bit, apebit.bandcamp.com. Not like the monkey. I have been informed this should be in the errata section. Apes are not monkeys. But apes are like monkeys. Thank you for the intro music. Thank you to the patrons. Richard, patron number 1, Bowden, Canadian variant alert, Chris Glidden, Nintendo World Champion, Daniel Jacksvick, high-end collector, Andrew Brim, 50 Hertz is good enough for me, Andre, Ben Parker, a bad enough dude to rescue the president, Video Games Were Meant to Be Slab, Brandon Ackley, Brian Gupta, and Pocky and Rocky with Becky, Mint Condition, Brian J. Mora, the Strictly Limited Super Rare Bruno, Fat Cat Collector, Chris Jackson, Chris SNK, Too Many NES Chris SNK, Too Many NES Accessories, Morozek, Johnny's GBA Hookup, Coffee with Mr. Saturn, Playing with Power, Connor Strange, The Last Game You Need for the Set, Corey O'Brien, Unpunched Hang Tab, Dustin Beagle, He Has Returned to Judge This City, Eric Addison, Man of Nintendo in the World of Nintendo, Funky Brewster, The Actual Shinobi, Jasonic the Kid, Jeff the Game Boy Ferris, Red Pyramid Thing, Jonathan Shados, Lance Lord Hardstyle Z, The Degenerate, Matt Fall, Mr. CIB, get your loose Genesis carts out of here! Funkoland Employee Platform Agnostic, Red, the Game Shark, the Famicom Box Retro Game Enthusiast, vintage video game connoisseur who knows they're better than modern games, the Fuzzy, Sean, the Gamer Collective, the new craft who can beat Mega Man without the pause trick, previously unknown variant Tim Walker from the internet, Todd Fisher, can't put limits on collecting VG Collectaholic, the Millennium Will Joe. Jesus. All right, and that's all we're gonna be doing of that. Keeper of the Zelda variant, 0x Def Code, getting the full PS2 set because Steppen won't, all caps. What a 9.88++, Benji, the actually rare Bird Dog Gaming. I actually lost my voice. That was a terrible idea. Brandon Rogers, whose favorite episode is the wrestling episode, still finding deals in 2021 somehow. Colton Murphy, how does someone still not have a nickname? David Green, no. A winner is him, David Green. Derek Lauer, who made me edit this show. Don Libby, the hero of time, actually understands the Zelda timeline. Jeff Pierce, he is error. Jeff Russell, Jeremy Jarvis, here for the Pog Talk. Jim Jacobs, world record holder of Best Collection. Joe actually plays his games champ. Pity, video game art collector because video games are art. Justin Chiccio, Lateral Movement, who's got a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up. Michael, posted in the Discord right now, Chiaramonti, Nick the Video Game Database Morgan, Homebrew Mastermind, Divertov, the other guy who collects Korean releases, Peaceful Games, Dungeon Master, Reed Stubenik, The Promoter, Retro RPG Podcast, High Definition 16-bit graphics, Stevie Lou, Tom, Obscure Variant Chaser Chase, Zaventorian, he knows all 97 Nintendo games, Andrew, actually collecting N-Gage O, B-Nugs! B-Nugs! Chesno, all your base are belong to him. Colby, he is Sinistar. Corhagen does what Nintendo don't. Daniel McArdle, who thought this was the Retronauts Patreon. The Modern Database, Danny Gomez, The Philatelist, Dork Overlord, my childhood PlayStation idol, Game-Rave.com. Joseph Rogers got 50,000 on Double Dragon. Collector of everything, including Atari, Kalen McAteer, Sam, Sega Mark III, Marks, and Sean, the video game Illuminati LaCroix. I need to drink some water or something, Jesus.